Welcome back to the Rodcast. We are creeping closer and closer to the weekend. That means we've got a lot of football to talk about on the show, but we do have a World Series champion. Congratulations to the Dodgers. We'll talk about that a little bit coming up here on the show. We'll also get to some Longhorn football discussion. We know they are on a bye week, but hey, it's always a good time to talk some Texas football. So we'll do that when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. Next segment, Texans are in action tonight for Thursday Night Football, taking on the Jets, who are right now a mess. We'll get into it and we'll break it down, preview that matchup coming up in the show. There's also a potential controversy on the horizon. Apparently, the headset comms have already been compromised. There's a story about that in college football. We'll get into it. I got a stat for you about SEC underdogs. Apparently, the underdogs are performing really well in the SEC. Jade Barron is a Thorpe Award semifinalist. That means the final 15, if you will, the best 15 defensive backs in the country are on that list. Jade Barron is one of them. We'll talk about that coming up. And there's already previews out, potentially previews out about the potential matchup that could have a SEC title implications between the Longhorns and the Aggies. So we'll talk a little bit about that and look around college football and some of the other big matchups coming up this weekend with the Longhorns on a bye week. So we are loaded on the show as well. We'll get to all your usual favorites, what the facts, what the stats, off the record, who said that. We got the topic for the big fat poll of the day as well. Other NFL news, notes, and nuggets as we look around the league. We'll start to preview Cowboys, who got a matchup coming up versus the Falcons. I'll tell you why that could be interesting. Cowboys are expected to get DeRon Bland back. That is big, getting back one of their best defensive players. We'll talk about that. And there's always hope that Micah could be coming back as well. But we'll get into that too coming up. Before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It is our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It is Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Happy Halloween to everybody out there. It is
nice.
I hope you have good plans of maybe getting dressed up or just going out with the kids, trick or treating, handing out candy, whatever you're gonna do on Halloween. Or this is what I've seen now. I knew it was a tradition that a friend of mine bought a house, and the person whose house he had bought used to give out hot dogs on Halloween.
And I don't know if I'm taking hot dogs from random person.
But apparently, I don't know about apparently that. This is a thing they used to do, like in the neighborhood. And I guess more if you know people in the neighborhood and they're coming
I gotta know you.
So I guess this
guy, I gotta know you, or you gotta be a true vendor. I can't just accept a random hot dog.
Yeah. No. And so, but he's been giving out Halloween. I was walking around our neighborhood, walking my dog, and then I saw somebody else had a sign that they were doing a similar thing. And
giving out hot dogs to random hot dogs?
Well, just a sign. They had a sign that said, like, at 6 o'clock, there'll be hot dogs.
You got to be, I don't know. Maybe if you're out there cooking them and I can see you cooking them, maybe something. But if you just got random hot dogs.
Oh, if you're walking out of the house or if they're just sitting there already ready.
I need to see them grilling. I need to see them cooking out there. Maybe that's the case.
Do you want to see the label of the bag too?
Pretty much. I need to. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think anything sinister's happening, but I don't know. You shouldn't just trust other people cooking food because everybody's not clean and sanitary. They're just not. Yeah. I love humans. I love my fellow man, but not a lot of y'all are clean. I know this because y'all just don't wash y'all hands when y'all just go to the bathroom. So you know what I mean? Like I don't know if I'm just gonna trust. I need it to be inside. So I'm not gonna. Now vendors, they're trained professionals. That's what they do. They take care of that. Regular people, no, I don't know if I trust it. Don't know if I trust it. Don't know.
No, I fully get that, and I get like I don't normally eat other people's food because
just random.
I don't trust people's cooking. I'm much more in there.
That's part of it too.
People are like, no, you love this. I put raisins in it. And you're like, why would you put raisins in it? So no, and you're like, yeah, if you ever bitten anybody's food and you're like, I didn't know those spices existed. And I don't know why they're in this.
Why the combination of those things together?
I don't know. I didn't know that you could make spaghetti that tasted not like spaghetti.
Yeah,
but you
why
found
is it
a way.
so sweet? I don't know why your spaghetti is so sweet. That's strange.
Yeah.
So that's what. Yeah.
So I'm not. But apparently, this is a thing. So if you're on the text side of it, if anybody knows of hot dogs on Halloween, and anybody knows why that's a tradition, let me know because it is apparently a thing that that now I've heard about twice now, which is more than I thought I would ever hear about it.
if you were outside like just grilling it up, and then it was like, hey, trick or treat, you want a hot dog, and you took it out off the, maybe I'd be inclined.
I don't think
I
you
don't
would
know.
though, because I think you would immediately see like, where is the tongs at? Where you would see there's no sanitary implements on the front yard.
Yeah, it's the last time you cleaned this grill, man.
You'd be in the driveway, and be like, none of this seems sanitary. Yeah, you got a pack of hot dogs just out, not in the fridge, like they're not chilling at all.
Yeah, I just think we're gonna stick to the packaged candy on that day for me.
Now, if it was somebody like with the gloves on and everything looked clean, maybe you'd go with it. But even then, you got to have like a condiment station. That's gonna be dirty.
Yeah, it's gonna be
gross. Or else you're just gonna raw dog the hot dog.
See, yeah, exactly. See, that's just not for me. For other people, though, maybe they're but good for you.
No, see, if you're also dirty like I am, and you just be like, you'd be like, well, what's it gonna get worse?
No, it's I never heard of that, but I guess I don't know. I want candy on Halloween. I don't want you cooking up something. I don't know. I'd rather my candy.
This is the only reason I think it works. I think it works for the parents who are drinking to get through it, and then they're maybe overestimated the drink, like they went a little too hard on the drinking, and then they're like,
substance.
Yeah, I need a little substance to put it back,
soak it all up.
Yeah,
I get that. That could be something.
I get that. Maybe like a counteractive measure, or maybe if your kid, you're like, man, take 2 bites of this hot dog because you have shoved 40 ounces of candy already.
Yeah, we do have options other than candy. We have chips and we have like chips and something else too. But we have options other than candy because my wife said the same thing. She's like, "What if they need something other than candy to eat?" And I'm like, that's not the purpose of this exercise.
That's why they have parents.
The purpose is to get candy here. What are we talking about? Substance? No, it's candy. We're hyped up on candy, man. We're on a candy high. If you need it, you just keep, you can't OD on the candy. You just keep getting candy. Now you may get the stomach ache later on because you eat too much candy. Hey, that's a learning lesson that every kid needs to learn. Every kid needs to know that line. Like, oh no, I can't eat the king size. I can't eat that king size niggas. I need to make room for other candy. I can't eat the king size niggas and the king size M&Ms. I can't do all that. No. Every kid's got to learn that, and Halloween's a part of it. Every kid's had that experience where you're like, I think I ate way too much candy. My favorite thing has turned against me. Oh no.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you got to deal with it.
You learn that lesson as a kid, and then you get older and learn that lesson once again with booze.
Exactly. Yes. And thank you very much. It's overindulgence. You learn, okay, I can't now, and I'm good. I don't need 4 shots. I did 2 is fine with me. I'm good. I got a nice buzz. I don't need to go over the top.
3.5. Let's try 3.5.
Whatever your limit is.
Give up on it too soon.
Yeah, whatever your tolerance is. I'm just saying you learn that as a kid with candy. Like I'm glad you brought it up. As an older person, you learn it with alcohol, and that's good. You need to learn that, man. It's a life lesson. Yep, no doubt about it.
There you go. Let me introduce my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers in Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod Father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Appreciate the intro, brother. Yeah, and I think the enthusiasm for Halloween, for me, not for me personally, but in my neighborhood, just observing it, I think it's waned a bit.
It is not very decorated at all right now. No.
I know. I used to, man. I'm telling, I think it was already kind of, like I said, I don't know I don't have any young people like that in my household, but just from my observation, because I was big on I want to be considered neighborhood to be one of the good houses when it came to candy. Like, oh no, that house there, no, they give out good candy and they give out good quantity of the candy. They're not stingy with it. I always wanted to have that reputation, no matter what neighborhood I lived in. So I always took it seriously. Like, no, we gotta load up on candy. I got bags of candy in that damn house. And what I've noticed is throughout the years, I'm keeping more and more of the candy because fewer kids are wanting the candy. And like I said, I give out a lot of candy. I give out big handfuls of candy every time.
Yeah.
And I've noticed just fewer and fewer groups of kids coming by. And it made me a little bit sad. I think COVID kind of dealt it a death blow.
I think it did. I think there's also, because like I know that they do a lot more things of like one place where like shopping centers,
the trunk or
treat things.
Yeah.
And then there's just still people are like, we're just going to rich neighborhoods.
Yes, and I don't live in a rich neighborhood.
We're going into where it's nice. It's in Austin. You're like, you probably anywhere in Austin within 15, 20 minutes, you can be in a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, no, they're like 4 of them really close, and you can just go there.
Yeah, so I think there's some of that as well. It's just
that's true.
We're gonna go trick or treating tonight because we'll get overall better. And yeah, I mean, like if you just see how many, I mean, your street is actually pretty good. The street you're on is pretty good, but
It's
a
a
lot of
major
us,
street, so it's supposed to be, a hot block, if you will, for trick or treating. And
yeah,
I don't think it's as hot as it used to be. It's not.
no,
If my
because
house
you're
ain't hot, ain't
no,
nobody house in the
well,
neighborhood that hot. Because
because
like I
you,
said, I'm on a corner. I'm on a key corner
yes,
of the neighborhood.
your
You know what I
street
mean?
that had the one that I laughed at that in before even October, in September, one of the neighbors
Oh
had
yeah.
the
Oh
the trash bag dead bodies hanging from a tree.
oh yeah. No doubt. Oh
And
yeah. They're
I was,
serious.
and it was like, you know what? I would put up the other decorations first and then wait till October to put up the trash bag dead bodies. I wouldn't start with that one in September.
No, I'll tell you how. Case I don't know if my neighbors listen to this show, so I'm not gonna talk bad about it because I love them. They're great. But I'll say this: if I lived in a neighborhood with an HOA, like a really nice neighborhood as you're talking about, I wouldn't be talking about this because that's where all the kids are going probably. But if they gave out like a prize for houses
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
the best Halloween decorations, I have two neighbors actually that would probably easily be in the top five, and they are no, really close to me. And I believe now, just based on observing, because you're right, one of them started early, and now there are two of them, and I think they're having a Halloween off.
Oh, they're having a
I think
Halloween
they're
off?
trying to, yeah, I think
Okay.
they're trying to outdo one another. I swear it. And because every other day or week they add
It
something.
does seem like there's more stuff up because I walk my dog
Yeah.
past that, and so I walk. Yeah,
And you know the two houses I'm talking about,
yeah,
right?
I
They're
do. I
they're
do.
like they're having a Halloween off, and we look like the fools in between because we put up a little something, but it ain't even close.
No, but
to
you
what
have
these
a
two
little.
houses
There's a
are.
lot of, like, I don't have anything in my yard. There's one on my drive
Oh,
out of the neighborhood to come into work that has lights and a full setup, and it's like cordoned off.
oh,
So there's a few. There's
yeah.
one that's got like a walking path of like a
Yeah,
haunted
have you seen
walking path.
the big skeleton? They're
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
couple of
yeah,
like huge skeletons. In the
yeah.
front. No. I mean, there's some that went all out, and I really appreciate it. Like some people are really creative too. Like there's one house that has real monsters, and they just put up like houses. They just put up like pictures of like gangsters, and like O.J. Simpson and stuff. Like it is, and it's like real monsters. And it was pretty cool. You tell they did it with their kids. It was like they explained this to their kids. I wonder how old their kids are. But anyway, I think my neighbors are having a Halloween off. I'm pretty sure of it at this point. They're trying to outdo one another. And I don't know, every other day or so, I'll see something new out there. So if they said one of the, I don't know, one of like the rules, the etiquette of Halloween, like if your house isn't decorated in some way, that the kids aren't supposed to go there. Like that was, so my wife was worried about that. She's like, no, we got to put something up
Okay.
because if you don't just knock on every door. You're
No,
not
we
gonna
always,
those that are participating.
yeah,
Like,
we always
are you
had
participating
like
in Halloween? Like
the
right,
front
like the
light
light
was
thing.
on. Like the front light
Yes.
was on. That was, you knew if the lights were off.
Yes,
you didn't go mess
yes.
with them. Yeah.
So there's like etiquette to this thing and all that kind of stuff. So we put up some decorations, even though we're not even close to the Halloween off neighbors that I have who are killing it right now. And so so there's also, if you're gonna go to a group of houses, like I said, my neighbors are hooking it up. Like you can't miss the Halloween
No, you
decor and the Halloween spirit happening in that group of houses. So I don't know. Hopefully this year we get an increase in the kids coming by because, like I said, I'm into it. I've always been into Halloween. I mean, what's not to be into? I mean, it's
No?
pretty.
That'll be good. I'll see when your neighbor's ceasefire happens too.
Oh
Who
yeah,
takes
and
it
I
down
wonder
first?
how Christmas is gonna go. I mean, this is a Halloween off.
I
Like,
can't
what's
imagine.
Christmas gonna
No,
be?
I don't know. I don't know if they're the same people.
Yeah, some people are into Halloween, but they're not into Christmas.
Yeah. That's
it's
the
different,
that's
like,
less of yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. I don't know, but I know one of my neighbors is definitely into Christmas. I don't know if the other neighbors are new. So I don't know if they're
Okay.
into Christmas like that.
Okay.
They came in and that's what started the Halloween off between my neighbors. They were like just going at it, just putting up a lot of different new decorations all the time. And it's, like I said, it's pretty, I don't know, it's pretty elaborate. Both of their setups is pretty damn elaborate. But like I said, we'll see. I'll give you guys a report and let you guys know how many. I always used to track the number of kids that used to come by, and I stopped doing it because we weren't getting that many kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is sad. It's a sad day.
No, I don't know.
And
I
then
don't know.
after
It'll be
COVID,
interesting. Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's not a lot of decorations up in the neighborhood right now.
No. That's why you know the houses. You're like, oh yeah, that house. Because I've been walking by and walking down through the neighborhood and looking at some of the houses, and it's not that many that are decorated.
No.
But the ones that are, they're dedicated. I appreciate it. All right, there you go. I don't know why we got too deep into the trick or treat conversation there. All right, we're way too deep into it. But we'll talk World Series champs because the Dodgers are celebrating a World Series victory. We'll get into that a little bit. Texans are facing the Jets tonight on Thursday Night Football, so we definitely will start to preview that. And we got into this headset communication story. Apparently, the headset communication may have been compromised for a college football game, and they're worried that this may not be the only isolated example of it. So we'll talk about that coming up a little bit later on the show. And of course, we're talking Texas football as we always are. But let's get to the Horn headlines first, and we'll come back and talk about your new World Series champions. But first, let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Spurs lost to the Thunder 105-93. Lou Dort had 20 points and Chet Holmgren added 19 more as the Thunder took advantage of 22 Spurs turnovers to get the win and remain unbeaten. Tonight, the Spurs take on the Jazz while the Rockets and Mavs face each other in Dallas. In the World Series, the Dodgers seized on the Yankees' defensive collapse in the fifth inning to win Game 5 7-6 and win the World Series 4-1. Freddie Freeman was named the World Series MVP, and the Dodgers have now won their second World Series in 5 years. And in the NFL, the Texans go up against the New York Jets tonight on Thursday Night Football. Houston will be without several key players, including Jimmy Ward, Azeez Al-Shaair, Dameon Pierce, and wide receivers Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs, who tore his ACL last weekend. And that's your Horn headlines.
Man, that list of players you just went through, it's kind of depressing if you're a Texans fan. And remember last year, this is when the Texans got embarrassed against the Jets last season. And remember CJ Stroud to leave the game, had a concussion against the Jets last year. This is a test for the Texans because they're missing a lot of key guys. And your first game without Stephon Diggs, there's no Nico Collins. He's missing his top 2 targets. Feels like a Joe Mixon game to me.
It does, but yeah, Dameon Pierce being out as well. It's so, you know, you don't have that backup running back. But yeah, it does feel like a Joe Mixon game as you try to figure it out at wide receiver. But yeah, it's that short week. What are you going to figure out in that week? Luckily, the Jets aren't good.
Luckily, fortunately for you, the Jets kind of suck. That's okay. But they're being close though. They've been close,
and they're not a terrible team. Their record is terrible, but they're not a terrible team.
No, the Texans, even with everything that's going on with the Texans right now and with the losses, I still think the Texans should they should be able to find a way to win this game. If they are a team that is trending toward being a championship contender, you find a way to win it. You find CJ Stroud, it may not be pretty, but he finds a way to grind it out and win against his team. But we'll see. I mean, it'll be a good, I think it'll end up being a really good game just because of how depleted the Texans are.
I mean, the line's only 2 points for the Jets, and that's in New York. So you're pretty much getting a home field on that one. Mm-hmm. So it is a pretty even matchup.
Yep, I totally agree with that. The World Series, I'm not sure if that was an even matchup or not, but if you look at it overall, the World Series and the Dodgers ended up winning their World Series and their first full season World Series, second time in 5 years, but the other one was a COVID season, right? That was a COVID season thing. And I know there's always in fans' minds going to asterisk in all the sports by the COVID years, because there was some different modifications. NBA had their version of the COVID season, and then everybody had to make their adjustments to it. So this is their first full season title since 1988. But how about this? The Dodgers scored 25 runs. The Yankees scored 24. New York had more homers, out-hit, and out-walked LA. And yet the Dodgers won in convincing fashion over 5 games because they were more clutch. It was just that simple. And last night's game was the primary example of it. They were just clutch. They were down 5 runs. It was the largest comeback to clinch a World Series in history. Clinch a World Series all time with a 5-run comeback in that game by the Dodgers. The Yankees, it was the Yankees entering that World Series game. This year they were 48-0, leading by 5+ runs at home or on the road. Essentially, they were unbeatable in that situation all season long. And once again, the Dodgers came up clutch. Yankees were 61-0 on the money line when leading by 5+ runs at any point at home since 2022, and couldn't hold off the Dodgers. So congrats to the Dodgers. Got some stats and what the stats that we'll get into. Hard to root for the Dodgers or the Yankees. I mean, it's just the truth of it. I guess if you were gonna choose a team to root for, if your team's not in it, just as a fan on the outside looking in, easier to root for the Dodgers. But nah, that was a hard one.
That was a hard one. Yeah.
That was that was a tough one. It was hard to conjure up, like the excitement as a just a fan of sports to root for one of those teams,
Yeah.
Dodgers and Yankees.
No, and
one of them had to.
and like Garrett Cole is the Judas who left Houston. I don't necessarily believe that. Players are allowed to leave and go where they want to go, but like Garrett Cole to have to give up 5 runs and none of them are earned is not a fun day pitching when your defense just stops playing in the 5th inning.
Yeah, you're right, and that goes back to it. Their guys weren't clutch.
No,
in this series
not at all. No, it's like Aaron Judge finally got hits, but he had his first error. I guess he's not just dropping a ball. So,
and Aaron Judge thinks a playoff thing, not just this season thing.
It's a playoff thing.
Yeah, for him. But no, I'm with you. It's like I said, it was hard for me to find a rooting interest, if you will, in this World Series. But congrats to the Dodgers. That's really, really impressive. Hey, they paid for it's kind of a lesson that can be learned. They were all in. You know what I mean? And obviously the Shohei Ohtani acquisition was a big part of them being all in, and definitely paid off for them. And they had a lot of injuries too. Even for the Dodgers, they had to persevere through a lot of injuries to a lot of their key guys. Still found a way to come up clutch in the World Series and win their first full season World Series championship since 1988. All right, let's get to some. Let's get some Texas. We'll obviously cover this in more detail as the show goes on, and we'll dive into kind of the matchup of the Jets versus the Texans. The biggest issue for the Texans in this game, and now without Stephon Diggs and of course no Nico Collins, it's more of a concern. The pass protection for C.J. Stroud. How do you on the road too? By the way, which now is going to test the communication of that offensive line. They've allowed the highest pressure rate on C.J. Stroud as the starting quarterback for the Texans. They've allowed his career high, by the way, pressure rates on him in the last 2 games. So he set career highs in back-to-back games in pressure rate allowed for C.J. Stroud in the last 2 games. I can't imagine. There's no way that he's going to set another career high. I mean, I think the last game they had pressure. His pressure rate allowed was 54%, and it was right at 50% versus Green Bay. He bounced back and had a much better game though against the Colts when under pressure. But still, it would be shocking if once again they were able to get over a 55% pressure rate or something like that on C.J. Stroud. That would be absurd. So that's the number one thing I'm watching in this game. How often can the Jets, they got a good defense, and they're getting Hassan Reddick back, and they got good DBs. They may just decide to put their DBs out on an island because you don't have a Nico Collins, you don't have a Stephon Diggs. You got a Tank Dell.
Yeah.
But Tank Dell's been, as we even talked about on this show, has been somewhat underwhelming to start the season. And then the rest of the guys, they're good, capable receivers, but they're just Jags. They're just guys. I mean, Robert Woods is a professional, capable, can make some plays for you. You got Tank Dell out there as a guy that can make plays. I think it'd be a big game for Dalton Schultz if he could step up. I mean, his target share is definitely going to increase, but this would be a big game for Dalton Schultz because I don't see anything remarkable about the rest of the receivers. Tank Dell is that guy. He is, but I don't know if he's the same Tank Dell from last year, and I don't know how long it's going to take him to get there. And he's been transitioning from going from the number 3 receiver to the number 2 receiver. Now he's the number 1 receiver.
Well, and a lot of what Tank Dell did a couple years ago was those deep balls. And that was kind of Tank Dell would be the one that could break free and get open on those deep balls, run underneath them. And CJ Stroud just hasn't had the time.
He hasn't had the time.
And so if he's running and you're and if you're Tank Dell, by the time you look back and you're looking at CJ Stroud running, now you're into scramble drill all of a sudden. So you're breaking off your route and having to go into scramble because, if you're running left and he's running right, you realize that ball's not coming to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to cut back to the ball and back that way. So I think that there is part of it that just some of those routes that he was so good at running, they're not able to do because of the pressure. And so now, but is the number 1 guy, who are you going to put in to run those simpler routes? We saw it with Kansas City when Rashee Rice went down. It's not like Xavier Worthy could step into that role of just cutting across the middle and picking up 6 yards. And in those little routes that Rashee Rice was running so well, getting 10, 15 targets a game, just running kind of quick little routes, that
Yeah.
wasn't Xavier Worthy's strength. So he wasn't able to be, they're not using him in that sense. So they went out and go get D-Hop because they're like, well, this guy can at least do that. For the Texans, who is the guy who they can just find easily in quick game and try and put? I don't know if that is Robert Woods, maybe.
John Mechie.
Mechie,
Okay.
if you trust him to try and go, this is your chance. You're getting your shot now coming back from leukemia. If you're able to, if you're 100% back, and we did take you as a high draft pick. You were a very highly touted prospect. So is that somebody that this is his chance to step up into that role right now?
That's a good question. Yeah, and I think you want to move Dale around too. I mean, I know he plays on the outside a lot. You want to move him around from those Jets cornerbacks too. If he's going to be your guy, you want to try to hide him and manipulate matchups to his advantage. Yeah, I really don't know who's going to step up and be that guy. Tank Dale, he's going to be the number one featured receiver in the passing game. But the other group, Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie, Robert Woods, hell, I imagine you're going to need all of them to step up and make plays. I don't know if it'll be just be one guy. It could be. That'd be great if it was. But I think, you're going to need Dalton Schultz, I think, to step up big for you. And you're going to lean on Joe Mixon and the running game in this matchup too on the road. Because you want your offense, you want to stay out of predictable passing situations with your offensive line. I don't necessarily trust the offensive line right now in pass protection, especially on the road. And, they haven't had issues with penalties as much in the last couple of games. So they are, they trend in the right way there. But on the road, this could be a really, really tough environment potentially for them, because I don't know if CJ Stroud's going to have a lot of open receivers down the field.
No, and is he going to have the time? Yeah, the Jets are 6th in the NFL in sacks right now, so they're getting pressure, they're getting home. So yeah, it's a question of, can CJ Stroud, can they get a quick game working? Can they find somebody that's reliable to get the ball moving? And what does Joe Mixon do when they just load up the box? And
that's true too. Yeah, because I think they'll go man. Why wouldn't you go man? You got one of the better secondaries in the NFL. They can man up on these receivers specifically, and then, like you said, stack the box, and they could, obviously put a lot of pressure on CJ Stroud with blitz packages, because they can man up on the outside.
Yeah.
And you can't get guys open. That's my concern this game for the Texans. And it's really all about the offensive line. Can they pass protect? And can they run against a stacked box? Because I agree with you. They're going to stack it against Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon might be the best, most productive running back, at least when you look at it, since he hasn't been started. He hadn't had every start this year, of course, because he's dealt with some injuries. But when he has started, you can argue only like Derrick Henry and a couple other guys have been more productive.
Yeah.
When he does start. I mean, I think he's gotten over 100 yards rushing in every start, if I'm not mistaken, that he's played.
Yeah, because he got like 101. I think he got like 90 something. But yeah, he's
okay. Maybe he's averaging. I should say. Maybe he's averaging. I should say averaging. He's averaging. I think 100 yards.
It is crazy that this is a team that, when you looked at this lineup probably going in, especially after the Jets get Devontae Adams, when you look at the amount of talent on offense with Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers and then CJ Stroud and Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell and Joe Mixon, you're like, wow, this is going to be a high-scoring game. And now you look at it as it's coming in on Thursday Night Football, you're like, ooh, this could be a defensive struggle.
It could be a defensive struggle. I will say that the Jets defense actually hasn't been playing that well since Robert Saleh, was fired.
Yeah,
they seem uninspired. It's almost like they
lost their leader. Almost, almost like that.
But they're still running the same defense, and it's still the same players largely. But yeah, when Robert Saleh was there, they went from averaging 17 points per game allowed, and now since Robert Saleh left, they're giving up 28 points per game. They were allowing 255 yards per game with Robert Saleh as the head coach / defensive guru there. And since they've allowed 338 yards per game. It's something about, I mean, they the Patriots, Drake Mays is starting quarterback there now. He's a rookie. They were 7 of 15 on third downs. With 4 conversions of 39 or longer in the fourth quarter. They had they had third they had four third down conversions, third and long conversions, a third and 9 or longer in the fourth quarter. Actually, the final 10 minutes of the game. Like Dre May was out there dealing against the Jets defense. There's something going on. I mean, like I said, they said they didn't change anything schematically, but that group is they're uninspired. They're playing uninspired. We'll see if they get back their groove and their mojo versus the Texans, because the Texans are so depleted offensively. They're definitely going to be limited in what they can do. This is a big game for the maturity of C.J. Stroud. Because like I said, C.J. Stroud last season did not have a great game versus the Jets. I'm sure he remembers that game, and now you're going into it without your two top targets. And on top of that, you're going to be, on the road. Your offensive line has had two of their worst pass protection performances in the last two games since you've been the starting quarterback. And really interesting to see how the Texans respond in this situation, because I could see them, losing this game. I could see it just because the Jets have been close. They've been close in some games. Like they haven't been necessarily blown out. They've been close. And the defense has not played like they did in the first 5 weeks. If that defense starts to look anything like that, and on top of the pass protection issues for the Texans and the receivers not being able to create separation, it could be a formula where the Texans lose this game. If they're going to be a team that competes with the Kansas City Chiefs, like we were saying in the offseason, that they could be that team, even though they hadn't really looked like that team so far this season. They found ways to win, and that is going to be key in this matchup. It doesn't matter how it looks. They just got to find a way to win. They got to find a way to get a dub over the Jets. They've lost, 5 straight? Right?
Yeah, I mean, they're 2-6.
They've lost 5 straight, though. You don't want to be the team they bounce back against. I mean, at one point they're going to stop the slide, but it shouldn't be against you, Texans. But I'll admit it is. If they don't protect C.J. Stroud, I don't see him being able. That's what happened in Green Bay, right? When you're on the road and you give up damn near 50% pressure rate on your quarterback, and half the time he's throwing the football or dropping back to pass, he's under pressure. The good team's you're gonna lose to a good team. The Jets aren't a good team, though. So the Colts are on a good team. So you should beat a bad team, even if they're able to pressure you.
Yeah, it's going to be, don't pick up penalties. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. And then you're going to need all the help you can get with, with having all these wide receivers out, with Dameon Pierce being out. So I say, it's going to be really big on this offensive line to give some protection, and then also to just not get dumb penalties.
Yeah, don't get dumb penalties. I'm with you on that too. Just the self-inflicted wounds. I think if they can just play clean football, the Texans will win. Because the Jets, they're an undisciplined team, and they're a bad team, so they beat themselves a lot. But the offense has improved, but the defense has in my opinion, it's deteriorated.
And they're really on an edge where for Aaron Rodgers, this is 2-7.
Yeah, you can't go. Yeah, I mean,
2-6 is already. You're pretty much done.
You are done. You are, but mathematically, you're not, I guess.
And if you're Aaron Rodgers, you can still have the convincing. Well, once we get, we'll turn it around, and then we'll be going on a run, and we got the guys, and now I got Devontae. We're ready to go. But that's a hard run. You basically have to go one more loss for the rest of the season.
Oh yeah, because last year the Rams started 3-6 last year.
Yeah,
and made the postseason. That is, so it's possible to be 3-6, but of the 129 teams that started the season 2-6, only 2 have made the postseason. But at 3-6, apparently they'd have a better chance. You go 2-7, you're done, son. I mean, you're done anyway. But it's mathematically, history would tell you there's no shot at you making the playoffs. All right.
Well, if you go 2-7, you're not winning out.
Yeah.
2-7 teams don't win out.
No, they don't.
They're not good enough to win out.
Even with Aaron Rodgers, and you're not going to turn it around like that. So they'll be playing with a lot of desperation. And we'll see if Aaron Rodgers can lead them to a win over the Texans. All right, we'll get back to that preview. We'll get to some more X's and O's in terms of that matchup tonight. But let's get to some Texas football conversation. Go behind the burnt orange curtain. Let's talk about Jahdae Barron, who is a Thorpe Award semifinalist. We'll get into that. I saw a preview, basically, a preview and a projection based on an analytical breakdown of the Texas A&M matchup coming up in a few weeks, and it's very interesting. Some of at least the breakdown, and I'll give you some of the details about that. We'll also get into the headset communication issue as a controversy. Apparently, the headset communication was compromised in one of the Big 12 games, and there is a growing speculation that that may not be an isolated incident. So we'll talk about that coming up. But first, we'll go into some Texas football conversation. Go behind the burnt orange curtain right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation. One of the things that I wanted to get into, I meant to get into this yesterday, but we ran out of time. There was so many NFL headlines and stories to get to that we ran out of time. But our cup runneth over, which is always a good thing. But Jahdae Barron was listed as a Thorpe Award semifinalist. And it's actually a second season. Their semifinalists list is down to like 15 players. Thorpe Award given to the nation's best defensive back. And he's one of the 15 semifinalists. It's almost a no-brainer. I mean, it's he's going to be a finalist. There aren't many players that are having a better season at the defensive back position than Janae Barron. Ironically, one of the players who I do think is also going to be a finalist. There will be three finalists. I believe they can. I think they can have more, but usually it's just three. It'll be announced on November 26th. Janae Barron will be one of those three finalists. There's no doubt. He's just been that good. Pro Football Focus actually gave him their mid-season. They did their mid-season awards, and they gave him their mid-season Thorpe Award. And they have him graded out as the best coverage, the best cornerback. I say highest graded cornerback in all of college football. I saw this stat from Sports Info Solutions. He's been targeted 20 times. He's allowing 2 yards per target, 40% ball hawk rate. I believe that's how often he gets his hands on the football, and a 35% catch rate allowed, according to Sports Info Solutions. I mean, he has been as close as you can be to a lockdown corner for longest. I called him a football investigator last year because of how great he examines pre-snap clues, and he's very, decisive. There's not a lot of hesitation or fear in his game, and he's one of those players that really, you can tell, studies a lot of film and acts on his instincts. That he says he wants to be a defensive coordinator, and when it's all said and done, when he's done with his football career, and right now looks like his football career is going to be a little bit longer, so he's got to wait on that. But if you look at SEC yards per coverage snap leaders, he is the leader in the SEC's yards per coverage snap. He is the highest graded cornerback in college football, and I think he is the most versatile defensive back in the country too. I've said that before. So I think he's one of the smartest. Like I say, he's a football investigator. He's able to, gather up clues pre-snap and even post-snap that almost lead him to solve the case, if you will, and solve the play. And that's what makes him, I think, most dangerous, at his most dangerous, if you will, because he watched a lot of film. He's admitted that. And when his film study aligns with the clues that he's gathering pre-snap and post-snap, he's, like I said, there's no hesitation or fear in his game. And that's, I think, one of his best traits and qualities as a former defensive back myself. A lot of defensive backs, they see it. All right. They see the trend, or they see the pattern on the field. They actually do recognize the clue, and it does track with some of the film study and the game planning they've done, but they don't have the courage really sometimes to act on it. There's a fear that sets in. It's like, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? I mean, I see the formation. I see the play in the situation, the down the distance. That all tracks with 70% of the time they run this route. All right, they run the double slant when they got, twins to the boundary on a third and medium. We're here. I recognize it. Should I jump it? Should I just take that step forward and just jump it? It looks like that, and then there's a fear that sets in, that insecurity. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? And then that little hesitation that caused you to, make a great tackle on the play, right? But instead of getting your hands on the football, and if you thought, man, if I had more confidence in myself, in my film study, more confidence in my ability as a football investigator, I'd have jumped that route to the house right now. That is a lot of the difference between the great players and the good players, guys. The great players have no fear about that. They don't doubt themselves at all. I'll admit I doubted myself a lot as a DB. It's like, hey, what? And I still remember those plays. I'm like, damn it, I was right. Why didn't I believe myself? I was right. I should have just stepped into the front, stepped in front of that hitch route or that out route, and I'd be to the house right now. And who knows? I'd have got drafted a round higher. And I don't see any of that doubt in Janae Barron's game. That's what I admire, and also I'm jealous of the quality. There's a fearlessness to Janae Barron's game. And the fearless, it's just trust in himself. His confidence that I know I'm right about this. Now, I've always said you can get him with double moves, and you can get him with counter keys. Remember, the end of last year, they started doing that on him. They started running like stalk blocks and goes on him, started running double moves on him, and it was working because he's so confident in what he sees. And I was at nickel, now at corner. I think it's a little bit easier for him because everything happens so fast at nickel. If you take a wrong step or there's a misread, you will pay for it because everything's happening so quickly. The closer you are to the football at corner, you can afford to gamble a little bit and still put yourself and still safeguard against double moves and counter keys. You can do that because you got more time for the play to develop. And if your technique is right, you play the upfield shoulder, you can force them to have to run through you with double moves, things of that nature. At nickel, is really tough to do that. But anyway, getting back to Jade, that's the best thing about his game. That's what makes his talent is so unique because there's no real indecision in his game. Now, I think the other thing that makes him unique, he can play any position in secondary. I do. The coach, Sark has said it, but hell, I was saying it last year. I said it last year because I read a Gary Patterson quote where Gary Patterson said, "I think he's a safety." I think it was an interview with Chip Brown. He's like, "I think he's a safety to me." Because at that, I think he was looking at it from an intellectual perspective that he sees the game like a safety would. Because safeties have a very wide view of everything, right? They can see more. They have more of I think in terms of the what they're looking at, the keys that they are reading. They're in they're getting more information, right? They're reading more things all throughout, not just the formation, but they get that type of view because they can see all sides of the formation. At corner, you can only see, your angle of the formation, your side of the formation. But at safety, you see it all. And I think he was talking about how Jade sees the game and therefore he absorbs more information because he sees it in a wider lens than a lot of corners do. Corners are kind of isolated. I see my side of the field. I see the twins over here. I see trips over here. I see, you're only reading, your side of the formation. But Jade Barron, I believe, and I think he's right about this. I think he looks at kind of the entire, scope of the formation. He looks at everything and then absorbs all that formation and then makes his decision on exactly what kind of technique he's going to play and if he's going to take a chance on jumping this route or what kind of leverage he's going to play. And I think, like I said, that to me, that's part of his versatility. He doesn't see the game just like a corner. And I think ultimately you can play him, and they've already played him at nickel. They played him at safety some this year, and they played him at corner. But I think you can promote him as the most versatile defensive back in the country. And I don't think you're lying. I don't think that would be a miscalculation or an inaccurate statement. I think he is the most and I'm glad that Sark and the staff have decided this season to use him that way, weaponize him that way. And that nasty dime I talk about, that NASCAR dime, he bumps inside to nickel there. He plays corner, obviously starts at corner, but he bumps inside to to that slot corner, I should say, when they run their dime package. And I've seen them based on the formation, if they have a formation, a boundary, or if it's man coverage and they have to audible to a zone, there'll be some situation where he ends up playing the deep safety. And even when they run the nasty dime, and sometimes they run their inverted Tampa 2 scheme, he ends up being one of the safeties, usually that middle field safety, and not middle field, the one that's inverted, the one that comes down to play where the middle linebacker would drop. He comes out and plays that, but from the safety role. So they use him in a lot of different ways. I thought this past game against Vandy, they would need him at safety because they were down Derek Williams. They were down Andrew Makuba, and it was a young Jelani McDonald. He was so spectacular at safety, and Taft Daddy has been amazing as well. That might have been the best performance that I've seen from the safeties all season long. And that was with a third string safety in there with Jelani McDonald. So they didn't need him, and they don't need him actually playing safety because they do have depth there. But I think to secure his candidacy and campaign for the Thorpe Award, as right now, I think he's the leader in the clubhouse to win the Thorpe. And that'd be amazing. I did not see that coming this season. I knew he'd be good. I didn't see him being Thorpe Award good. And that would that would put him up there with GOAT status among the all-time greats at the University of Texas. So good for Jade. Hell of a season. And like I said, the most, I think, the biggest compliment I can give him is that he's fearless. I think that is, to me, the most impressive thing about his game. Is that There's no fear as a DB in his game at all. And we'll see. I don't know if he hadn't faced like elite wide receivers yet and going up against an elite wide receiver in an elite passing game just yet. And I don't know if really they will until they get into the college football playoff, a SEC title game in the postseason. But I think the man is up to the task. We talked about the best quarterback they had faced was Carson Beck, and in that game, an NFL caliber quarterback guy ended up getting 2 picks in the game. So he's been clutch too. You got to have those big game performances if you want to win those national awards, so people will know you. And I think that Georgia game really catapulted him to now he's in that national award conversation. Okay, before we get to the break, the other guy who actually may end up being a finalist for the Thorpe or potentially winning it, guys, is Jalen Catalon. Remember him? Remember Jalen Catalon transferred from Arkansas to Texas? And hell, everybody thought he was going to start here for the Longhorns, and he did actually start, I think, a couple of games, but then ended up getting hurt, and he's basically been dealing with injuries for most of his career. But when he is healthy, was playing at an All-American level. He's healthy, and he's playing at an All-American level. He's got 4 interceptions on the season for UNLV. And he's got 40 solo tackles, 66 tackles, 4 tackles for loss. He's got 1 interception return for a touchdown. If there is another player that's going to threaten Janae Barron's Thorpe, it actually may be Jalen Catalon, guys. Got a forced fumble on the year. The guy who may threaten his Thorpe is the guy that played in the same secondary with him last year. That's still impressive. That's to me. I think both those guys, will end up as finalists. They only got 3 of them, and 2 of them would have played in the Texas secondary in 2023.
Travis Hunter doesn't get to go in this.
Huh?
Travis Hunter doesn't get a shot at this.
Yeah, I think he does.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, he's in it. I don't know if he's gonna. Like I said, I think he would be the other one. That's probably your 3 right there. Honestly,
yeah.
That you just brought it up. That's probably your 3. That might gotta look at Travis Hunter stats, but Travis Hunter. They could give it to him too. You're right. They could. I said Pro Football Focus gave it to Janae Barron, but they could give it to Travis Hunter. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I'm not gonna hate on Travis Hunter, but he's the best athlete in college football. I'm gonna look at his defensive stats here. They got him with he's got 2 interceptions, 1 tackle for loss. Yeah, I mean, 7 PBUs on the season. You can justify 1 forced fumble. You can justify that. Those are your 3 finals. That's my prediction, and I agree with you on that, Patrick. Travis Hunter, Jalen Catalon, and I think Janae Barron are your 3 finalists for the Thorpe. And you honestly, you can give it to any of the 3, and I think you're justified.
You still got a lot of football left to play.
Got a lot of football left to play. All right, we come back. We got a lot of show left to do. We'll come back and we give you we'll get into topic for the Big Fat Poll today and your musically themed day of the week. I think I know what the theme's going to be. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on home.
Back on the Rodcast on a Thursday morning, and that means it's a new theme Thursday where I make a new theme each week and play music based on that theme. Of course, today's theme is going to be about Halloween and
Mm-hmm.
Halloween songs, and starting out with a little Otis Redding Trick or Treat to get it going. Try not make it too on the nose that are just like the really kit nichey Halloween songs. So these are all like regular songs that are just Halloween adjacent, can fit onto your Halloween playlist, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be, the Monster Mesh over and over again. It doesn't have to be that. That's what we're trying to do.
Seriously.
Boost up your Halloween playlist for tonight. If you're having some trick or treaters, or if you're having a party, or whatever you're doing to enjoy Halloween night. Let's get to big fat poll today. What position? Sorry, let me get the intro to it. Text line's open 512-447-3776, or we'll get this posted up on X at the Horn ATX.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on the Horn.
Big fat poll of the day today. What position should the Texans pursue most at the trade deadline? Since the Texans are playing tonight, we'll talk about them. And we'll get into what they should be looking at the trade deadline. They were very active over the offseason, but now we know you're into the season. A lot of other teams that are contenders are going after it and making trades. If you're the Texans and you want to be viable in that AFC playoff discussion, you're a playoff team right now, but you're not a playoff winning team right now. You're not a contender for the AFC championship or definitely the Super Bowl at this point. What do you add? I will give you a couple options. Wide receiver, of course, now with Stephon Diggs going down, Nico Collins, we know is on IR. He's eligible to return next week. However, if you want to have any sort of security, now you get a little test this week. See if anybody shows out. If Mechie shows out, or Hutchinson, or really Mechie or Hutchinson. If either one of your young guys shows that they have a propensity to be able to be somebody that could get 6 or 7 targets a game, maybe that makes it a little bit easier. I've read that Caserio is calling around. It's no star receivers, but most of the star receivers have already been moved, who are going to be moved. But the Patriots have a couple of guys. The Browns still have some guys. So there's still some players around that are being shopped right now. I believe the Giants have a couple guys that they're looking at. So there are a couple players that the Texans are looking at the wide receiver. Another position, offensive line. We know they have spent a ton of draft capital on this offensive line. However, it does not seem to be going where it needs to be going right now. Is there a position that you feel is the weakest that you maybe do need to bring some help in? If there's I'd probably go a center or a guard. You clearly are not changing out Laramie Tunsil. You've traded everything for him. You paid for him. You're keeping Laramie Tunsil out there. So it would probably be a left guard or a center. If you made a trade, I know you drafted a couple centers. Patterson is out for this game as well, one of the centers you drafted. So you still have Juice Scruggs, I believe, there at center. But if that's set protections, help out in that, be more of a command center for that offensive line, somebody in that middle, maybe that's a trade you go after to try and do something to help shore up this offensive line. Or do you go in the defense and try and add a piece there, maybe as a linebacker where you've had some injuries recently, and bring somebody else in there, or in the secondary to try and shore up and really help out that secondary. Jimmy Ward has been good when he's healthy, but he just can't stay on the field the last couple of seasons in that safety. Or do you add another DB alongside Stingley, where Lassiter's played pretty well, but maybe you want to add one more in there? I think you're really probably looking more offense, which is what you wouldn't expect going into this season. But the defense has been playing pretty well, so I don't know how much you'd add. Maybe a defensive tackle, but I'll say linebacker and secondary. But wide receiver and offensive line probably going to get the most votes in this poll.
Wide receiver definitely for me. And offensive line has talent. Offensive line's full of talent. Talent's not the issue on the offensive line. I think their issue is cohesion, coaching, communication. I didn't mean for all those to be starting with C's, but still, I think those are the issues on the offensive line. I think they actually may need, because I'm gonna knock on wood here, but your hope is that Nico Collins comes back and he's completely healthy. But hamstrings, man, they can, they really can linger, and they can pop up again and become, re-injuries, if you will, anytime. So I would get a wide receiver to give, because you right now in this game, you got 44% of the completions for CJ Stroud are unavailable in this game versus the Jets on the road. So you just got you got Jags, not dudes at wide receiver right now. You just lost your dudes. Tank Dell's another dude, but Tank Dell hadn't been he hadn't been like that. And he hadn't looked and resembled that player from last season that was dynamic and one of the most explosive weapons in the NFL. I think he'll get back there. I mean, but don't forget, he had an injury that ended the season last year. Man got shot in the offseason, been through a lot. May take him a while, right, to get back to the best version of himself. So I would try to go and get a wide receiver. It is really bad timing because it seems like all the really good deals were off the table right before the injury news about Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know if you're going to bring him back, but help, at that point, I'm sure they would at least considered it. And now Deontay Johnson being the latest too. It just seems like a lot of those deals are off the table. But there's definitely plenty of, I think, other opportunities out there as well. I just don't know if you'll get the high end players that you would have been able to get that kind of are off the market now.
Yeah, you're probably not getting a game-changing wide receiver, but you can still go out and get somebody. The big question is, are you paying basically the same amount of draft capital for, wide receiver 2 or 3 as some of these other guys were paying for a wide receiver 1?
Yes.
And
value.
that's where you kind of get stuck on it as, well, everybody else is paying a 5th round pick for a wide receiver and they're getting wide receiver 1s. But is one of these teams really going to give up a guy for a 7th?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, people are surprised that Deontay Johnson went for what he went for. You got to find somebody with, maybe you got this. It depends on who you're looking at and obviously their situation with the team. But I'm with you. I mean, I think the value is a big part of it too, for them and how the players perform tonight.
Yes.
Now you shouldn't put too much into the performance tonight because it could just be, a matchup based thing, and maybe one of your guys steps up and you don't really know if he's going to be consistent. I still, before the trade deadline, if I'm the Texans, if it is possible, I'd make a move to improve the roster. But I'm with you. If it doesn't improve the roster, you don't just make one for depth. I don't think depth is your problem. What you need is a guy who can be a productive, weapon for you. Not just a depth piece, because you've lost a lot of your productivity in the passing game. Nico and then Stephon Diggs out for the season. And then you have to anticipate, unfortunately, what if something happens with a re-injury of the hamstring of Nico Collins? You hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. You have to prepare for that if you're the Texans too.
Some of the names that have come out that Texans have looked at are Darius Slayton from the Giants, Kendrick Bourne and KJ Osborne from the Patriots and Jacoby Myers from the Raiders. Those are some of the names that have been thrown out. They're all decent players.
Yep.
None of them are game changers, but they're all decent players that could come in and help you out. The question is, are all those guys still a 5th round pick that you're giving up, which is what everybody's been giving up for any wide receiver? It's like a 5th. Yeah. So you go, well, we could have got DeAndre Hopkins for this, but now we got to kind of get another guy who's not clearly as good for the same amount of draft capital. So at what point do you just suck it up and do it? Do you do a compensatory 6 that if he makes X amount of catches, all that stuff? Well, that probably goes a little bit more after this week, that the Texans will be talking a lot more, and then something would happen early on Monday.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And all those guys have been at least, as a receiver in the NFL, a productive receiver at one point. And that's what you need. Somebody who just has been there and done that. And if you got to give up a little bit more than you'd like to for it, I think that may be the price you have to pay just because of the situation you're in. Losing Stephon. What did you give up for Stephon Diggs? A 2nd round pick, I believe you gave for Stephon Diggs. Somewhere around there. So I mean, you got to add that to the equation too. You kind of lost that draft capital for this particular season, and that's out the door. And he's a free agent now after this season, which now actually works out good for you. It's not good for Stephon Diggs, but for the Texans, actually in terms of value, that's actually working out really good for you.
Another name I forgot is actually you're playing against him tonight. It's Mike Williams. Now that the Jets have brought in Devontae Adams, Mike Williams' roles diminishes, so maybe he's available after this game.
It's not bad. Hey, you get to see them up close and personal.
Yep.
Get to evaluate them. All right. So there you go. That is the topic for the big fat poll today. We'll come back. We'll discuss that and more. We'll also get into some Cowboys discussion. Cowboys may be getting back to run Bland, and we'll give an update on Michael Parsons as well. Talk about their upcoming matchup with the Falcons. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast, the Halloween holiday edition of the Rodcast. Thank you guys for joining us. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis, who comes up with all the musically themed days of the week, he comes up with a creative new theme for New Theme Thursday. And of course, easy to guess what today's theme is because it is Halloween. And so happy Halloween to everybody out there. And thus all the songs are Halloween themed songs. I will say Halloween probably the most songs in terms of holiday themed songs probably has the most of any holiday behind Christmas, which is weird. I guess no other holidays have songs really.
I mean, Valentine's Day, maybe.
I don't even know if those are Valentine's Day songs. They're just love songs and
Yeah.
romantic songs, and we
Because
just
these aren't
associate
Halloween songs. They're just spooky
Some,
songs.
yeah, they're just spooky songs, but people play them on
do.
Halloween like that. Yeah, like they like associate them. Like we don't play these songs any other time other than Halloween. Like nobody plays Thriller anymore any other time of the year. Like you'll listen to love songs and you'll listen to romantic
Yeah.
songs any other time
Yeah.
of the year, and you'll listen to them when you go out, and you'll hear them when you go out places and stuff like that. You don't hear these songs
Yeah.
about spooky stuff until Halloween. They
Yeah.
don't play them any other time of the year, but around Halloween, we hear the same songs, and there are probably about 25, 30 of them. We hear the same songs. They never play them. So in my opinion, those are Halloween songs. It's like
Okay,
Christmas.
I
I don't
gotcha.
hear those Christmas songs any other time of the year. They don't
Okay,
play them
I got you.
other
I
than
like
Christmas.
that.
Now, Christmas songs are Christmas themed songs. To your point, these aren't Halloween themed songs, but they become Halloween themed songs because we only play them around Halloween.
Okay, I like that. That's
You know what I
a
mean?
solid point. It's a solid point. I'm trying to think of what other holiday there may be that has
Music associated
4th
with
of
it like that.
July, maybe.
Yeah, I guess American, anything that's patriotic.
Like that
we
4th of
just throw in
July,
there.
there's a bunch of songs like Born in
Yeah,
the
you're right.
USA and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
that
that's
one's
true.
that's got
That's
like
that
stuff
one,
that
yeah.
you
Yeah.
play really America centric songs that time
Yeah,
of
what is
year.
the Miley Cyrus song? That's a
Party in the
uh,
USA.
yeah, you hear that one around that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like anything get
So
a
maybe that
USA
one?
in it.
Yeah, maybe
4th
that
of
one.
July. Yes, good point. Yes, 4th of July. So I think maybe 4th of July is like the third in terms of holiday
Yeah.
themed music. It's weird that it ends up working out that way, but you're right. Yeah. USA. That's a good one. I don't know, but I'm just saying we'll never hear these songs. But I like the songs. They're good. They're cool songs. But we never hear them any other
Yeah.
time than Halloween.
That great Rockwell song.
What Rockwell song?
Everybody was watching me. Somebody's watching me.
This?
That's
Oh
Rockwell.
yeah. See, I don't even know the name of the artist.
It's Rockwell.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know that. I mean, is it a one-hit wonder? Is he a one-hit wonder?
I mean, pretty much, but he's Barry Gordy's kid.
Oh, he didn't even need to be a one-hit wonder. That's why
He's Barry Gordy's
So,
kid. And then
See, I didn't even know the name of the guy. I know the song very well. I probably can sing, but I had no idea that
because
was
you
actually
know the hook
his
is
name.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, well, that's how he got it
He
done.
got
Very
it
good.
done. It was Barry Gordy. The best part
Yeah.
though is he comes out and says that he was like having dinner with Michael Jackson. They're family friends.
Well, of
And
course.
he was having dinner with him, and he like pitched him the idea. Michael Jackson was like, "That's so great. Can I be a part of it?"
So it wasn't like Barry Gordy.
Yeah, I believe
saying,
he told
Mike,
this
you owe
story.
me lots of favors. I need you to do my son
Yeah.
this favor.
No, it wasn't. No. Apparently, he wanted to be on it.
Uh-huh.
I believe that story
Uh-huh.
came out after Michael died, but that's what I've heard.
No way Mike can refute it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mike loved
No,
this.
he wanted
Matter
to
of
be
fact,
a
he
part
said
of
it was his favorite project that he did
Yes.
outside of his own work.
He said this matters more than Thriller.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even know the guy's name. That's crazy. Rockwell. Did not know
Rockwell,
that.
yes, Rockwell is his
Okay.
name. His actual name is Kenneth Gordy. So
Yeah, there you go. Oh man, that is. And then a lot of people. I knew the Michael Jackson thing, and I want to say, you might have told me that back in the day too. I knew the Michael Jackson thing. I don't know, for some reason I did not know the artist's real name, but there you go. It kind of proves my point that there's no other time to listen to that song. But it's not a bad song, by the way.
No.
Not a bad song.
and by the way, if you ever just want to
creepy
look
video,
up,
too, I
if you want to look up Rockwell pictures, he's got the look in the 80s. He's got that full on.
Yeah, just dripping 80s.
Just dripping 80s, just really like trying to be Prince a little bit.
Oh yeah. Well,
Which
yeah,
I mean, you can't be Prince and Michael Jackson at the same time, but
can't do it both. No. I understand how you could see and that, oh, you're not gonna try to pull off. Nope, you can't pull them off. Like not at both. You got to commit fully. Commit to the bit. If you're gonna be like Prince, you got to be like Prince. You're gonna be like MJ, Michael. You gotta go into the Michael thing. No, that's I got to tell you though, that's one of the top ones though. Honestly, around if you want to look at like the top Halloween,
yeah,
songs,
it does not
other
get
than
played any other time of year.
Thriller is. I mean, I think Thriller is the greatest Halloween themed song, I guess. But I would say that one, he might have been onto something if he was trying to get it to be a Halloween song. Underrated. You always hear it around this time of year. I don't know how the royalties work, but you hear it once a year, this time of year, somewhere. You're gonna hear that damn song.
It is. Yeah, Thriller is because too. You have the music video that's like the long shot, and it's.
So Michael Jackson is like involved in like multiple Halloween themed songs.
Yes, he is.
How did that happen?
You know, I've heard that it's creepy if kids go over to his house. So
oh
Michael
no!
Jackson.
Oh,
What I've heard.
oh no!
I
Oh
like Michael
no!
Jackson.
Too soon.
I like Michael Jackson. I'm not
Oh,
all
that's
just
right. Well,
allegations.
But he did like, he did have what do they call it, the Peter Pan kind of syndrome where he
Yeah, well, he had
liked,
Neverland at his house, right?
yeah, I mean, so my point is Halloween was still been a big thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that was actually something that Michael Jackson was into. Anyway, there you go. History lesson. That's what New Theme Thursday is all about. Also, the topic for the Big Fat Poll today is also something we're grateful for my man Patrick coming up with. Always a great conversation starter. Patrick, what is the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day?
Big Fat Poll today. What position should the Texans pursue most at the trade deadline? We gave you a couple options: wide receiver, offensive line, linebacker, and secondary.
Yeah, it's wide out, but I don't know if you'll get the good value at wide out that you want. And so you may get better value at another position, but there's definitely the biggest need is at the wide receiver position with the loss of Stephon Diggs. And Nico Collins is going to be out for one more week. But if Nico Collins comes back and he's completely healthy, you don't have your issues at wide receiver aren't that big. You got first world problems at wide receiver. Right now, you got some third world problems at wide receiver. Like straight up, you got some massive issues. Once Nico comes back, if he's completely healthy, I mean, he'll come back and be one of the top receivers. So he'll be your number one. Tank Dell will slide into that number two. And then any of these other guys could end up being, a number three and fulfilling that role, or it could be a, money ball hodgepodge solution to that issue. So I think the Texans, this is the game. This is a proven game for CJ Stroud and for the Texans. And I want to see how both of these quarterbacks, how the bounce back factor, not from last week necessarily, but just for the season overall for Aaron Rodgers, right? Aaron Rodgers, this team is on a 5-game losing streak, which, as we talked about, that's in itself. This is the second. How about this stat? This is for Aaron Rodgers. He has had a 5-game losing streaks twice in his career. Prior to this, twice had 5-game losing streaks previously with the Packers. Both times, he responded with 3 touchdown, 0 interception performances in home wins to snap the streaks. And he's at home, and he's lost 5 in a row. And he actually hasn't been playing terrible. He's been playing a lot better. So maybe a bounce back performance from him, and backs up against the wall because, if you go look at it, they're 2-6 right now. They're pretty much out of it, but you can still make the playoffs at 3-6. We saw the Rams do it last year. You go 2-7, mathematically everything you've done, everybody can start making vacation plans and packing it up. So there will be a sense of desperation potentially from this Ram squad too. In terms of the bounce back factor for CJ, remember, this may have been CJ's worst game of the season last year against the Jets. It was, the CJ Stroud completed 10 of 23, I believe it was, in that game for 91 yards, sacked 4 times. And I believe the Jets got their hands on like 10 balls, like whether it be PBUs, they got their hands on 10 passes, and then end up leaving that game with a concussion. Now, that game was ugly because I think it was raining and all this kind of stuff, and it was an ugly game period. But this will be interesting, because there's no rain in the forecast. But in terms of the bounce back factor for CJ Stroud coming off playing the team last year where this was arguably his worst game, but he was a rookie, he was a baby, and they really, Robert Saleh and his staff did a great job dialing up a really good game plan to take advantage of his inexperience. That's not the case, but you are down 44% of your completions are out in this game, Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins. So really interested to see how CJ Stroud's going to respond to this adversity. So a lot working against him in this matchup against the Jets. We'll talk more about that. We'll break it down, that matchup tonight for Thursday Night Football. But we want to talk some Cowboys. We'll get into that coming up a little bit later on. And I want to get into this story with the headset communications being compromised in a Big 12 game. And there's some that believe it's not just isolated to that Big 12 matchup. We'll dive into that too. But let's get to the Horn headlines here first before we dive into some of the other topics of the day. Let's get educated, updated, and informed with all the top stories with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Spurs lost to the Thunder 105-93. Lou Dort had 20 points and Chet Holmgren added 19 more as the Thunder took advantage of 22 Spurs turnovers to get the win and remain unbeaten. Tonight, the Spurs take on the Jazz while the Rockets and Mavs faced each other in Dallas. In the World Series, the Dodgers seized on the Yankees' defensive collapse in the 5th inning to win Game 5 7-6 and win this World Series 4-1. Freddie Freeman was named the World Series MVP, and the Dodgers have now won their 2nd World Series in 5 years. And in the NFL, the Texans go up against the New York Jets tonight on Thursday Night Football. Houston will be without several key players, including Jimmy Ward, Azeez Al-Shaair, Damian Pierce, and wide receivers Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs, who tore his ACL last weekend. And that's your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We appreciate those. Okay, so Texas Tech has asked the Big 12 to investigate the possibility of its coach-to-player communication being compromised in the last 2 games against Baylor and TCU. Now, this comes from our friends over at 247 Sports. In those games, Baylor beat Tech 59-35 in Lubbock, and TCU came back from a 31-14 third quarter deficit to beat Texas Tech 35-34 in Fort Worth. The Big 12 is going to honor the request, and they are going to investigate the possibility of the comms being compromised. On Wednesday, Texas Tech purchased $70,000 worth of encrypted coach-to-player communication equipment from CoachComm, a competitor of the company GSC. Now, for those who don't know who GSC is, GSC is basically the company that provides most of the headset communication for college football, for the Power 4 college football teams. But serious questions have been raised about the integrity of those communications after it was revealed that revealed the vendor to those conferences, which is GSC, has been using unencrypted frequencies that could be hacked by anyone knowledgeable about the use of scan technology. As a result, the Big 12, Big 10, ACC, and the SEC have informed their member schools that GSC, the Wahoo, Nebraska-based company providing helmet communication to the Power 4, has a software update that should ensure encryption, protecting the privacy of play calls being delivered from coach to player. A spokesman for the SEC said, "We have been aware of the issue and have stayed in communication with GSC and our colleague conferences as well as our schools. We are not aware of any instances of the system being compromised during games." He says GSC has developed an update to resolve the issue, and we have made our schools aware of their ability to update their systems at a time of their choosing. CDC was asked about it, and he says he wasn't aware of any issues during games in which the coach-to-player communication had been compromised. But as just pointed out, Texas Tech is saying that they would like an investigation into their last 2 games and to whether the comms were compromised. The Texas Tech officials, like I said, they purchased $70,000 worth of encrypted coach-to-player communication equipment from CoachComm, a competitor of GSC, for their game against Iowa State on Saturday. Repeated messages left by 247 with GSC seeking comment weren't immediately returned, so they do not have a statement from them. And according to multiple sources in the Big 12 and SEC, a frequency operator at AT&T Stadium preparing for the Texas A&M Arkansas game on September 28 notified the SEC that coach-to-player communication was occurring on unencrypted frequencies, and they were vulnerable to scan technology. So apparently it's a thing that they could be hacked, that these comms could be hacked by some outside party, and they are investigating whether it's already happened. I mean, we're more than halfway through the football season, so if it's happened at one place, it's happened at if it's happened in one game, it's happened in another game, in my opinion. I don't think it's one game and isolated. I think it will be more than one, if indeed it has been some obviously compromise of the comms there. So
it is,
and I don't know if it will be done and with malicious intent. It may just be done just to see if they can do it. I mean, honestly, it could just be people messing around to see if they can do it, rather than, oh no, we're doing it counter stallion style because we're stealing signals and it's the other school trying to gain advantage. I don't even know if that would be that. It probably would be just some hacker who wants to see if he could do it, and probably play a practical joke more than it would be another school doing it after the counter stallions controversy.
Yeah, and I mean, and the system you'd have to have set up in it, because the counter stallions thing was, we know their signals a week in advance, so we're hacking a week in advance, and then we can go in and then we can get it, and we get real time, and we can adjust in real time. Whereas in the headset communication, it feels like it would be difficult to do that real time.
And not be able to find evidence that a team is stealing
Because you're having to do it somewhere within radio frequency.
Within the network almost.
Within the
right?
network, and then get that signal and then tell somebody back in the building what's happening, run it through your system of what play it's going to be, and then send a signal back to them, and then have the defense or offense change the play after the headset communication goes off, because it'll already have hit at 15 seconds by the time all of that transpires.
If you do it in that way, you'd be trying to do it for the fourth quarter. You're basically you're going to use the first half or the first part of the game to gain the information and then decipher it.
Yeah.
Right. Based on what you're watching. And then like fourth quarter, give it to the coaches like, hey, these calls mean this. And I still don't even know, like you said, how you relay it in real time. So they can use it. So it's like I said, I'm not smart enough. I'm not a hacker. Trust me. So I
get totally how you can do it, how you can get the signal. That makes sense.
Yeah.
How you could then use the signal in football terms
in real time
to implement it and be effective enough in it that it actually is worth cheating that hard. Worth everyone in the program gets banned from football. Bad.
I mean, you're talking about like electronic, like the kind of electronic sign stealing that was an issue in Major League Baseball of how to relay it back to your team real time after gathering the information. And I'm with you. I don't know. As I said, to me, it would be if it was hacked, it was by an outsider and it was more of a practical joke. Or maybe, like I said, maybe they're doing it. If it is something sinister or malicious by another team, it'd be done for future research. For future game planning. But then I'm with Patrick. How do you relay it in the game?
Yeah, I think
still be able to use it.
Yeah, I think if you you'd have to go baseball route with it and basically just be like run or pass. Call me a run or pass.
It's got to be very simple.
And just be like, that's all I can give you. I can't tell you where it's going or whatever, but I can tell you if it's a run or a pass.
Yeah.
And so when he calls it, and then they just go RPO, and you go, well, crap, we know it's an RPO. That doesn't help us.
Yeah. And I'm with you. I don't know that helps you, but I mean, that's always a 50-50. And you can do that based on situation. You go, well, down in distance, I can see that in trends.
But that's the thing, is because in baseball it was, straight or curve. Yeah. That was what the Astros were getting. It wasn't where the ball was going to be or anything else. It was
placement.
Is this ball going to move?
Yep.
And so that was the thing. So if you took it as that sense, you could probably get it in. And then if you're at the line of scrimmage and your whole defense shifts because it's a run play, and then the quarterback still has 10 seconds on the game clock and just goes, oh, check into a pass. Everyone just moved into run defense.
Yeah, which veteran quarterbacks can do. We know Quinn has the option to do. It's like, so
at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like it would be huge. This feels much, much more like a Texas Tech is trying to figure out a way to explain why they lost 2 games.
It could be. No, I'm not saying that it wasn't compromised, but like I said, I don't know if it was done with malicious intent by the opponent.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I said, it might.
No, I believe 100% that somebody came in and was like, I can hear your play calls.
Yes, exactly.
100%. I believe that.
Yeah,
it's just nice that they want to. We lost 2 games. Clearly, something's afoot.
Something's going on here. I think the comeback by TCU is what really freaked him out. TCU came back from a 31-14 third quarter deficit.
Yeah.
To beat the Red Raiders 35-34. That's the one that made him think, hold on, what's going on? And I'll say this about TCU. I love TCU is great, but remember they had a connection to the Kind of Stallions thing too. Because remember, TCU used Michigan's football, signs, their sign stealing scandal against them. Remember that Yahoo Sports report from Ross Dellinger when the TCU Horned Frogs beat Michigan 51-54 and advanced to the national championship. And they said they did it based on dummy calls. Dummy signals. And they mixed in dummy signals with their real ones because they had heard that Michigan was stealing signs.
Yeah.
And they said that was like word on the street with all the coaches, like, oh, dude, Michigan, they're stealing signs, bro. They got your plays. And they were like, all right. And then TCU coach told Dellinger, a TCU, an anonymous one, said sometimes we froze a play before the snap. We'd call a play, and then we send a signal in for another play with an old signal. We told players to run the original play. So they were just playing mind games in Michigan. And you could argue that it worked, but my point is they knew about it. And they're not sure if they knew about it from just the word, they heard it through the grapevine, or if they had somebody, a coach, a specific person from the Big Ten, like a coach on the staff or a member of another team, tell the TCU staff, hey, they're stealing signs. We know it. Y'all should be ready for that.
Yeah.
All right. And you make them pay because we couldn't do it. They beat us because they stole signs. You guys can make them pay for it. Not sure really how they got the information, but TCU knew. And so, TCU savvy. I'm not saying they're here trying to, obviously.
It seems like a largely that two teams in a row both went and hacked your signals and then figured out the system of how to do it. And then were able to orchestrate this giant comeback on you because they knew what you were calling, which again, we know it would basically be run or pass. And then you couldn't figure that out and audible at any point or check out of plays or give two and be like, well, the defense is shifting.
It is an advantage, though. If somebody.
No, it would definitely be an advantage. I agree with being an advantage. I think it's a very elaborate setup to get there because it's not like, hey, man, we can do this with one camera and do it in a dugout. It's all you have to be basically outside of the stadium with a truck set up. Which they have trucks.
It would have to be you'd have to have an operation. It have to be a sign stealing operation.
Yes,
you're not going to mistakenly do this. Yeah, or what I mean. You're not going to stumble upon it.
I think it's possible. I think it's much more likely that fans have done it, and that freaked out Texas Tech, and then they went. We need those.
It's a practical joker. It's a practical joker.
Yeah.
I think if it was, it's a practical joker. And he wanted to show his friends he could do. He's like, guys, listen to this. We can hear what they said. God, listen to this. I told you I could do it. And it's just some hacker.
Yeah.
Hackers, they're notorious for that kind of stuff, right? Just to kind of show their clout, all right, and their aptitude. They'll do stuff like that. So that's what I think it is. But yeah, there could be some. We're all thinking something sinister because of the Connor Stallions thing. But when you break it down, this would have to be an Ocean's 11 type operation. And Connor Stallions operation was pretty damn elaborate. It was very elaborate. But when you broke it down, it made more sense as to why he was, scouting those teams in advance and getting that information in advance to try to be able to go back, decipher it on his own, and then give the information to the Michigan coaches. This is different. And like I said, it would be tough to relay it real time. Other than, like Patrick mentioned, the run pass, you could do that, but then it still would be tough to do it on time, to give it to the defense in real time so that they can use that information. But it ain't impossible. It's not impossible.
And I'll say on the other side,
improbable, but not impossible.
I'll say on the other side, yes, get it encrypted. It shouldn't be that easy to do. So on the flip of it, just fix it. This is, again, a multi-million-dollar operation. You should be able to fix that pretty easily.
No, why the hell do they have,
I agree
this company? How is it unencrypted from the get-go? How can anything be unencrypted these days?
Yeah.
Encrypt everything. Let's assume, what are we doing? Why does unencrypted still exist? Everything should be encrypted. Don't ever put out any technology that is not encrypted, because everybody right now has to worry about cybercrime. Like that is the you want to look at the biggest increase in types of crime. Cybercrime is no doubt with the biggest increase, and everybody's about to have to deal with cybercrime. And you know what sucks about cybercrime, guys? We don't have cyber police to counter it. Like the cyber authorities are way behind the cyber criminals, way behind. I mean, so far behind that it's laughable. That's the sad thing. Like and you know who's most vulnerable? Our parents. They have no idea what the hell's going on with cybercrime. They have no idea. You're just sending them links. Say, click this. You got a bank account? Click it. And they're like, okay. It's like, no, don't click that. Don't. No. The bank does not send stuff like that. The bank's not going to text you. So no, don't do that. But to me, everything should be encrypted. It's a shame that it's probably an issue about price, and it's probably cheaper to unencrypt stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
probably cheaper, and it probably works easier so that if something goes wrong, you can fix it quicker. Yes, there doesn't have to be a less technician bugs. Or somebody there. So I get why the concept would be, well, let's put this out like this, but come on, you should encrypt it.
Yeah, everything's got to be encrypted these
days. As much as I don't believe anybody was necessarily using this in a giant operation to win a couple games in the Big 12, I do think that you should definitely have it encrypted, because once you start getting to the college football playoffs and you get to really, really big games, and then all it takes is one booster to kind of be like, oh, no, hey, I've set up something.
Exactly.
And by the way, I have this young coach that I'm going to try and give this information to. And then you get a Connor Stallions thing of, once somebody else creates the information, is somebody going to then take it when it comes at the end of the season?
Yep. No, I'm with you. Yeah. So like I said, I don't know how that the fact that this is how you know everybody's behind like cybercrime. Nobody who gave this company the power for contract for a headset communication thought about encryption. Nobody. Nope, nobody. So they didn't even have an advisor that was like, "Hey guys, let me check out the technology for you just to make sure there are no bugs. Let me look through the code a little bit, make sure everything's good." Nope. You got a company to do it? We'll take it. You know anything about it? Nah, they say they do it. That's how ignorant we all are to these kind of
Is it? Can
advanced
anybody hear it?
technologies.
Can anybody hear it? Well, I mean, no, it's not going to play on the
Right?
speaker or anything.
Yeah, we were halfway through the season. They just thought about it. It's like, well, yeah, of course somebody's hacked it. Like I said, I don't think it was to gain an advantage competitively, but of course somebody's hacking every damn thing.
Yeah.
There's somebody hacking everything right now. That's the crazy thing about it. Everything. That's why I honestly that was some stuff. We had some cameras in the house and they kept turning on their own. And I asked somebody about it. He was like, honestly, if you're that paranoid about it, you probably should, because he said these can be hacked, because apparently he's like, no man, he said these kind of cameras. I only say what kind. He said they can be hacked real easy. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, you got to go look at some stories about people hacking these types of cameras and having access to them. I was like, oh no, we can't have it. I cannot have people hacking my cameras and having access to them. But it's a thing.
Yep.
Trust me, it's a thing. All right, there you go. We'll come back. We'll get into Rod's rant of the day. We'll talk actually to sit or to start a quarterback. I did some research about, the quarterbacks who sit, quarterbacks who start. Is there an advantage when in quarterback development to sitting a quarterback? Every situation is a little bit different, and works a little bit differently. But with Anthony Richardson, there's a lot of conversation about them making the mistake of starting him right away and how that may have really, disrupted his development and really cratered his development. And we'll talk about that because every quarterback's a little bit different. I'll tell you what I prefer. In terms of the sit or to start a young quarterback, and we'll discuss that coming back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Mohon. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some my rant of the day. Oh, really quickly before we dive into some of the other parts of the rant here, I was talking earlier this week about remember the Trevon Diggs reporter issue where there was a confrontation between, I believe it's Mike Leslie, the reporter out of Dallas, and Trevon Diggs about his effort or lack thereof on one of the plays. They buried the hatchet since. But remember, I told you that it was at least Trevon Diggs in his explanation. He was probably going to say that it was basically a pursuit drill. I was looking to see if I could cut off the cutback for the running back. That's why it looked like I'd been lollygagging on the play, but I wasn't really lollygagging. I was trying to gauge the trajectory and the path of the running back, and you had to account for your teammates who are also defenders. And if you have a teammate that's ahead of you that, like I said, is actually a pursuit drill, then they are supposed to cut off the runner, and then you play for the cutback. If you're ahead, you cut off the runner, they play for the cutback. That's the way it goes. Mike Leslie tweeted this out. Trevon Diggs and I have cleared the air. He apologized for the hallway incident, and I apologize for my misreading the play. He explained that what I interpreted as him jogging was, in fact, him slow playing a potential cutback from George Kittle. He buried the hatchet with a couple of canisters of D's nuts that he presented to me after his interview with press was complete. Yeah, I mean, I told you, it looks like that at times, but there is a drill that when you're pursuing a ball carrier down the field up the sideline, that you're supposed to play it a certain way. And that drill, I've been doing that. I was doing that damn drill when I was in middle school. So everybody does a pursuit drill, no matter what level of football you play at. And so my thing for Mike Leslie is that he must have never played football or doesn't remember the pursuit drill or had bad coaches when he was a kid. They never done a pursuit drill. So it ain't, I don't know if it's his fault or whatever, but everybody does a pursuit drill. That's all that was a pursuit drill. So I wanted to make sure we got that clarified. I'm glad that Trevon Diggs broke it down to him. And that's what he should have did from the get-go. He should have took the high road and been like, oh, dude, you ever play football? You should ask, you play football before? Yeah, played football in middle school, whatever. Okay, did y'all do the pursuit drill? Oh, you didn't. Well, you're bad coaches, number one. They coaches need to be better. There's a pursuit drill where you pursue a ball carrier up the sideline and everybody takes specific strategic angles. And you adjust your angles based on the route of the ball carrier and based on the position of your teammates. You have to adjust your angle to the football. Also, you don't run into each other, number one. And so that everybody's not taking the same angle, he cuts back and then 8, 6, 7 guys over pursue, and he cuts back and then he gets up more yards. You don't want that. Yeah. So in order to avoid that, we have the pursuit drill. So it's on Trevon Diggs. He should have just said that instead of coming out and getting all angry and upset. It's like, no, they're reporters. It's their job to educate the public about the game, the whys, and the hows that the team won and lost. And you can do him a favor by just helping educate him. And I think so that was a lot of wrong in there. And I think Trevon Diggs, 2 wrongs don't make it right. He should just go out there and it would have took the higher road. It'd probably made the guy feel bad anyway. And then he would apologize, and you wouldn't have had to apologize, Trevon. Because you took the higher road. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, in all reality, you should have waited till the next day or whatever when you weren't necessarily really pissed off that you just lost.
Yes. Oh, agree with that too. Yeah, probably shouldn't check the phone right after you get off the field.
Right after.
I mean, good lord, they must check as soon as they get off the field. Like,
it's not just checking the phone; it's checking social media. And like I thought about this after too. I'm like, I'm old man in this that I don't do it, and I know other younger people do it. So it's like I don't want to be old man yelling at the clouds, but it is. Yeah. But at a certain point, you're like, no, I learned to not do that because I understand that it's never going to be positive like you want it to be.
No,
you're never going to get the reaction you want. You're never, especially after a loss, you're not going to walk in and be like, well, Trevon Diggs, the one shining light of the team. What a great person he is. They should give him more money. That's not what you're going to find on there.
Nope. You're right.
So just go, no, man, don't do that to myself. Put that away for a little bit. Get my head straight, and then we can go into it and figure it out from there.
Yeah, I agree. Don't check social media after y'all lost like that. Don't do that. Give it like, oh no, give it until you get home. Give it till you get home and you get in bed. Because right now, algorithm is targeting you, man, right after the game. It's coming after you.
You didn't even take a shower yet? You didn't even take a shower yet. He's still in his pad.
He was still in everything. That means the first thing he did was check social media when he got off the field. Ooh, that is toxic, man.
Like, and man, if you have a friend that texted that to you, tell that friend, like, dude.
Yes, come on now. Can you give me
read the room? I know you're not in the locker room, but read the room.
Yeah, that's true. Somebody could have texted and been like, "You see what this clown said about you?" And it's like, I don't care. That's not a concern for him right now, especially when he wasn't actually loafing on the play. He was actually executing a drill. He shouldn't have been worried about that at the time. But so that is true. The fact that he was still in his pads and everything, didn't even go take a shower, nothing. Oh man, that's why when if you're gonna tweet something, I always think about. That's why I never tweet. Because I always think about it first, and I think about it too much. And I'm like, it's not ain't worth it.
No, I always think about it, and then I'm like, what is the response I'm going to get for this? And you're like, it's nothing or bad. Leave that be.
That's why, Robbie, you see how I tweet out stats, and I tweet out stats and numbers because you can't really argue with it. People still argue with, by the way. I tweet out a stat number. They'll still want to get in an argument with them. I'm like, it's a stat, bro. Yeah. It's a fact. Yeah. All right. I didn't even put an opinion on it. I didn't even say how I feel about it. I didn't even say if they suck or they're great. I just put out a stat and a fact. They're like, oh, what are you trying to say, Rod? And I'm like, I ain't trying to say a damn thing. I just put out a fact and a stat, and you guys freaked out about it. So that's why I overthink my tweets. I put out a tweet out, I'll look at it, and I'll be like, so what's going to be the response? I'm like, you know what? It's not even worth tweeting. That's why I rarely tweet out opinions. How often do I tweet out an opinion? Y'all know.
No.
I tweet out a fact and a stat, so you can't argue with it, and I still get people want to argue with me about a fact. It's a fact, man. These are facts. This is roll with us today. We think facts, and facts is something that you can argue. It's like, no, it's a fact, man. It's a fact. That means it's true. That means there's no opinion about it. It is a fact. It is true whether you like it or not. All right. You decide how you feel about it. Matter of fact, we got what the stats coming up. But I want to get to this fact, actually, because I want to talk about the quarterbacks real quickly. So everybody's talking about Anthony Richardson being benched after just 10 starts. And I agree. That's too few starts to actually be able to come up with a true evaluation, a thorough evaluation of a young quarterback. But if you look at you're looking at every quarterback, kind of the modern era list of quarterbacks. All right. And when they made their first start, and we started this, so since 1966 is basically what we're looking at here. So kind of the Super Bowl era, modern era. And it's a list of quarterbacks and when they made their first start. Like Doug Williams and Jim Plunkett and Joe Flacco, John Elway, Peyton Manning, Roger Staubach, Russell Wilson, Terry Bradshaw, Troy Aikman, Matt Stafford, all in the first start. Like they made their first start when they had the possibility that they made their first start of their careers. Like it in their first game, right? Made their first start in their first game. And then there are other guys like Patrick Mahomes. He made his first start in his 16th game. Right, Drew Brees made his first start in his 17th game. Kurt Warner, 17th game. You get it. Like that's basically what we were tracking. When did you make your first start as a quarterback? Tried to find a trend. Is there a higher success rate, hit rate in terms of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, MVP quarterbacks, Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, busts? Look at guys who were just busts too, or the other notable quarterbacks, and see if I could kind of recognize a trend. There is no trend. You guys know if there's a trend, I'd have found it. There is no trend in terms of is there a higher success rate with quarterbacks who sit as opposed to quarterbacks who start right away. The Super Bowl average for quarterbacks who actually win a Super Bowl, the average time that they, or at least the average start for them when they made their first start, 13.3 games. So the average Super Bowl winning quarterback made their first start 13 games into their careers. The average MVP quarterback made their first start 12 games in their careers on average. And the average, Hall of Fame average was actually 6.2 years for the Hall of Fame average, which also says something. And the other average of all the other, so basically any other notable quarterback who started or any other notable busts in that time span, 9.5 was the average start in their careers. They had their average first start, I should say, in their careers was their ninth game, I should say, was when they made their first start. So there wasn't really a pattern. I would say that if I had to choose, I would rather sit a quarterback if I could, but everybody doesn't have that luxury to sit a quarterback. And sometimes that rookie quarterback or that young quarterback ends up just straight up beating out that veteran quarterbacks. Remember Russell Wilson? Nobody wanted Russell Wilson to start right away. He ended up just beating out the guy ahead of him and winning the job. And so every situation is different, every circumstance is different, and I didn't find the trend one way or the other that hey, sitting a quarterback as opposed to playing them right away is the better, more successful method. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Just like quarterback. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. All right, we come back. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats, speaking of, and then we'll dive into some college football stats and some NFL stats on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Bever's coming back on the horn. All right, how about this? Since the start of the 2020, since the start of 2020, the 2023 Texas Rangers are the only title winner in four major sports that was above 20-1 odds. Been pretty damn chalky lately. 14 of 19 winners since then in the four major sports, or title winners in the four major sports, had odds of 10-1 or shorter. 14 of the last 19. How about that? The Rangers were 50-1 odds to win the World Series. So a lot of chalk, man. A lot of chalk going on. And hell, Kansas City, the way it's looking right now, I don't know what their odds were, but they were undefeated. They're undefeated right now, and I believe they had the best odds to win the Super Bowl and three-peat going into the season. So looks like that's going to be chalky too. Just throwing it out there. How about this one? A big game in college football this weekend is Ohio State versus Penn State. I actually like James Franklin, which is how I know he's not really good in big games. But this is actually a staggering stat. In Penn State's last 6 games as home underdogs, 0-6. 0-6 in their last 6 games as home underdogs. And they're a 3.5-point dog to Ohio State. Yeah. And James Franklin is not good in big games anyway. Definitely not going to trust him in this game as a home dog, considering that stat. That's unfortunate. What the facts, what the stats, continuing here. How about this one? I talked about the SEC underdogs, and I wanted to share this stat with you about the SEC underdogs. And I was looking at, I think, and I started with this because Vanderbilt is probably the quintessential right now SEC dog, if you will, the SEC underdog, and they have shocked the world really with this kind of Cinderella story. How about this stat? Says underdogs in SEC play are 26-11 against the spread so far this season. Best mark of any conference. Home favorites are 3-15 against the spread this season in SEC conference play. That is the worst conference mark for home favorites through 9 weeks in the SEC since 1990. So underdogs in SEC conference games, 26-11 against the spread. They're killing it. No conference has better against the spread record for underdogs in their conference. And home favorites are not really a thing you should be confident in. And they're not winning you a lot of money right now in SEC play. Home favorites just 3-15 against the spread this season in SEC conference play. So I don't know what's going on with the underdogs and with home field advantage in the SEC. Neither one of those is as formidable. The favorites are not as formidable as they used to be, and home favorites are not as formidable as they once were in the SEC. All right, there you go. That's what the facts.
I got one more fun one from the World Series that I saw Danny Davis retweet this morning. That there has now been a Will Smith to win the World Series the last 5 seasons.
There's been a Will Smith,
a player named Will Smith on the World Series winning team the last 5 seasons. The Dodgers catcher is named Will Smith, so he won it 5 years ago. He won it this year. In between, the left-handed reliever Will Smith played for the Braves, then the Astros, then the Rangers.
Oh, damn! So it's 2 Will Smiths though.
It is only 2 Will Smiths
that account for the Will Smith. That's still impressive.
That's still 5
what are the odds?
What are the odds to have Will Smith Will Smith win the World Series 5 years in a row?
No, I'm gonna lie. That's pretty freaky. That's pretty freaky. That's crazy. Yep, that's pretty wild actually. Yeah, good stat. I like that. What the facts, what the stats. All right, there you go. That's a couple. I got a few more, but we can throw those into the show on the other side. What the facts, what the stats. All right, we come right back. We'll get into the Thursday night game tonight. Texans versus the Jets. Jets. We'll talk a little bit about the World Series champion, the Dodgers, and how they got their their first full season world title since 1988. We'll get into that a little bit. And we have Behind the Burnt Orange Curtain, where we will talk some Texas football. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Papers. Coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast, and it's the Halloween holiday edition of the Rodcast. So probably easy to guess what the new theme Thursday show is all about. My man Patrick Davis, the co-host, and the idea there on the show comes up with all the musically themed days of the week. And on new theme Thursday, he comes up with a creative new theme, and it's usually inspired by something going on. And what's going on today is Halloween. So it is a Halloween themed new theme Thursday. So all the songs have a Halloween kind of feel and vibe to them. So we appreciate Patrick with that one. Who is this?
This is Oingo Boingo with Dead Man's Party.
Oh man. Okay. Oingo Boingo.
Oingo Boingo, you may know the person who's the singer of this group, the leader of this group, is Danny Elfman.
The name sounds familiar.
Danny Elfman has done tons and tons of movie scores throughout the years.
He's one of those guys.
So he's done tons and tons, like Nightmare Before Christmas and all that stuff he did. But he's done a lot of legendary music scores. So, and then now he's got his own music, and he's just weird. He's like, he got jacked, and he's a redhead. So it's this weird, like Carrot Top kind of looking guy. But then he does this music that kind of sounds like Nine Inch Nails. And he has Oingo Boingo, and then he has these movie scores. And he played like the Hollywood Bowl, and he was going between the three, and it's an interesting thing, Danny Elfman, but he's been around for a long time.
Yeah, no, this has been on a soundtrack of a movie. Like I don't remember exactly what movie, but I can remember it being like on a movie montage. I just don't know exactly what movie it is. So interesting you bring that up. And then I mean, we were talking about how Halloween has like songs that you only hear this time of year, like kind of how Christmas actually has Christmas songs. People, they create Christmas songs for the holiday season. And it has music you only listen to that time of year. But Halloween, these songs that Patrick was playing, a lot of them, like Thriller, nobody jams Thriller just randomly during the summertime. No, you jam Thriller in October. It's like the number one Halloween song. And I was thinking about it, and my man CB, shout out to CB at Chris GB 0002000. He sent us via Twitter a post, a tweet from a Halloween account that posted a No Limit Soldier themed. It was a song for the Scream 2 soundtrack. Now you're talking about soundtracks.
Yes,
it was a song for the Scream 2 soundtrack that had Master P. It was written by Master P, produced by Master P and No Limit, and then it featured Silk the Shocker on it, and Master P, I believe, too. That was on it, and it was basically a Scream, and it was called Scream, but it was like for Scream 2 soundtrack. I don't think I've ever heard it before.
I don't think I have either. But
thank you, CB. I will check it out. I'm sure it's terrible, but no. Getting to the point that we were making though about
falls into music that is specifically for Halloween, the stuff that's
played like scary movie stuff, and scary movies are a Halloween thing. I mean, most of the scary movies, they try to come out around the Halloween time if they can. They'll try to come out around that time.
By the way, that song, they actually play it live in Back to School.
Oh,
and the party scene, yes, in the party scene, that's Oingo Boingo playing this.
Okay, man, that's crazy. That's where my mind went to. I'm old. If I remember that, why does my mind remember those things?
I don't know.
Lots of great things I'd love to remember that can make me money.
When you said No Limit Soldiers, I thought about them and their feud in WCW with the West Texas Rednecks.
That was a thing?
Yeah, they were in WCW.
The No Limit crew had a cameo in WCW.
So they came in and they like wrestlers that they were backing. I think the Filthy Animals, and then
I missed this.
And they were fighting against the West Texas Rednecks, who actually got a song on country radio called "Rap Is Crap." And then
wrestling had,
and then they did it. Age. Yeah, and then I heard a story years later that Eric Bischoff was talking about. He got called back to the locker room, and there's like 20 guys back in this locker room, and he's like, and they're all talking. They're like, "Hey man, what's written doesn't work for us," and they start pulling out like knives and guns. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not dying over this." Like, okay, your guy wins. I don't care.
That is, I missed that era. Oh man, I don't know how I missed it too.
It was at the end. It was not good. It was really bad.
End of it? Okay.
Because it was a thing of like they wanted Master P because he was the guy.
Oh yeah, he was like the most popular rapper at the time.
And then he's like, cool, I'm bringing all of my people with me.
Oh,
so
yeah.
every
Gotta
time
bring
they
the
would
crew,
come out, there's 20 people. And you're like,
Yeah.
I don't want any of those people. And now they're just ruining it because they all want the spotlight. So yeah, it was not.
and that's how No Limit operated too. Like he was Master P was brilliant, but he was a quantity over quality guy.
Yeah.
He was just pumping out. I mean, they had so many rappers and so many albums all the time. It was like, what is going on? And for a while, I mean, I think there some of the music came out was actually really good, but man, most of it was just terrible. He was about quantity. He understood that was his time.
Yeah.
And I think he understood, like, no, my time will pass. And if I don't get it right now, I'll never get it. Somebody else will become a big thing. I think he was right about that. He figured out, like, no, I only got so long. There are very few rappers that can kind of transcend throughout different, like, artist period, right? That can transcend through different generations and basically raise a generation of fans on their music. That doesn't really happen. Usually you have your 15 minutes of fame and you're pretty much done. The exception to the rule is that basically you grow up with a generation of fans, a decade plus of your music, your catalog can influence a generation of music fans. That's the rarity. But I think Master P understood that's not me. That's some people that can do that. Like, that ain't me though.
I hit it hard.
I gotta hit it hard, and I gotta go. And you know what? Good for him, because like that ain't him. There's some artists they can do that.
No,
most artists don't have that kind of longevity.
I just remember him. He had the album with him in the Hornets jersey.
Oh,
when he was when he tried out for the NBA.
Oh man, I forget. Yeah, I remember that. And he had his dream.
Then, was his kid Lil Romeo? Was his?
Yes, I do believe you're right.
Is that his kid?
Lil Romeo.
Oh,
Lil Romeo.
Things that are in my brain.
He got his kid into it too. Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you, Master P, he did have a great marketing mind.
Yes.
Like he just understood. He understood good marketing. He really did. And matter of fact, I want to say he's the one that saved Snoop too. Didn't Snoop went over there with him for a while?
He may have been. I think I also, if I remember correctly, and maybe some of the text remembers this.
Yep, Snoop Dogg went over there for a while. And Snoop went over there for protection, honestly. Because Snoop basically was running from some real gangsters on the West Coast, and he needed some real gangsters to sign up with, and he signed up with No Limit, because No Limit, they were some real gangsters too. They were like, no, we rap, but that's like you told your Eric Bischoff story, like, no, they got some real gangsters.
Yeah.
And so basically, whoever was it, Suge or whoever on the West Coast, that was like, hey man, we coming after you. He went to some gangsters over there in New Orleans, and you don't come from the West Coast to go mess with gangsters in New Orleans. You don't do that. You just let that slide. And vice versa. You ain't you ain't doing that. So that's why Snoop was like, I'll go hang out with them gangsters in New Orleans. It was like, all right, well, you safe.
All right.
Yeah, ain't nobody going to New Orleans to mess with them. They were like the murder capital of the world at the time.
And I think if I'm right, he had one of the craziest episodes of MTV Cribs too.
Oh, I can believe it.
Yeah, it was just a weird nuts house that it's like looks insanely outdated now.
Oh yeah,
everything was so gaudy and stupid of the 90s. And
exactly, you just said it, gaudy. It was like, why would you have that? Yeah, the fish tanks everywhere.
Yes,
and a fish tank in every room, man. It's like, wow.
I'll go back and see if that still exists somewhere.
Yeah, no, I remember. Chris was our version of, remember, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Do you remember that?
Oh yes.
You remember Robin Leach? This was actually at the start of the ruining of America. Actually, when we became so materialistic and obsessed with, basically wealth and celebrity and wealth. That was a big part of it, showing America that, because nobody had really been exposed to that. Right, that was earlier. Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous, and it was like, what? People live like that? And then Cribs was the modern version of that. Like, people have what? That's crazy. And that you can argue that's our obsession with consumerism and everybody trying to, attain that.
Yes.
All right. The rich and famous.
Oh, good old
I remember
Robin
that
Leach.
as a kid. Yeah, Robin Leach, man. I remember that. Yeah, he's one of the real monsters. He should be on there. Robin Leach wasn't good for society. It's bad for society, man. All right, let's get to the Horn headlines, and then we'll come back and talk about the World Series champion. Congratulations to the Dodgers and Dodgers fandom out there. Their first full season championship since 1988. We'll get to that. Also, we'll get to the game tonight. You have a Halloween matchup between the Texans and the Jets. could be scary for the Texans, considering the losses. They're a depleted roster right now. I got about 4 starters out. We'll talk about that, including Stephon Diggs, who's off for the season. We'll get to that, but first, let's hit the Horn headlines. Let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Spurs lost to the Thunder 105-93. Lou Dort added 20 points and Chet Holmgren added 19 more as the Thunder took advantage of 22 Spurs turnovers to get the win and remain unbeaten. Tonight, the Spurs take on the Jazz while the Rockets and Mavs face each other in Dallas. In the World Series, the Dodgers seized on the Yankees' defensive collapse in the 5th inning to win Game 5 7-6 and win the World Series 4-1. Freddie Freeman was named the World Series MVP, and the Dodgers have now won their 2nd World Series in 5 years. And in the NFL, the Texans go up against the New York Jets tonight on Thursday Night Football. Houston will be without several key players, including Jimmy Ward, Azeez Al-Shaair, Dameon Pierce, and wide receivers Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs, who tore his ACL last weekend. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Appreciate those as always. We'll get to the World Series here in just a second, but I want to talk about the Texans and the Jets as well. And CB reminded me, I don't know how we forgot about this. Thank you very much, CB. We appreciate it. Don't forget that Ricky Williams signed with No Limit as well.
Oh,
No
that's
Limit
right.
Sports Agency. Yes, when Master P decided to become a sports agent. Ricky Williams was his first big signing. Oh man, I forgot about. Yeah. That was a great move for Master P, but for Ricky, probably not the best move for Ricky. Yeah, I think because I remember that contract was like very incentive based. If I'm not mistaken, it was like he still got money because he was a top 5 pick or whatever he was. Ricky was, but I remember there was a lot of incentives in there instead of some guaranteed money for him. But yeah, solid Master P. Coming out. Yeah, forget all about that. Yeah, those are bizarre times, man. Those are some strange times back then. But I will say he did. You got to give Master P credit for that. That started a thing. Now Jay-Z's had a sports agency. You see more and more rappers that try to get into it or at least become in a mogul way. Like he did, and yeah, that was kind of a blueprint that Jay-Z copied too, to kind of pivot into sports a little bit. And hell, Jay-Z's still there. I mean, Jay-Z's helps he advises the NFL on their stuff. I think a big part of Kendrick Lamar doing the Super Bowl halftime show is Jay-Z.
Keeping it busy.
Yeah, he's trying to be behind the scenes now. That's what he wants to do. Is kind of moving.
What you have to do as you age.
I would think so. Yeah, it's like I don't need to be out front anymore. What I need, I'm a billionaire now.
No one wants to see a 65-year-old rapper.
I honestly, you don't 55, 65, 55. Yeah, 55. I think you're a little bit too old.
You can't Frankie Valli that one. You can come out at 90 years old, still singing the songs.
You gotta reinvent yourself and pivot. That's why most rappers they want to go to television. You do like 50s in TV. Will Smith, he's the first. He's the pioneer of it, right? But he didn't go into like gangster rap. He was the pioneer. Got it to be in sitcoms and then became an A-lister. That's everybody's goal. He's like what The Rock is to wrestlers. Every wrestler wants to be The Rock. Every wrestler's goal is to be The Rock.
Yeah.
Like he's the ultimate goal. And every rapper's goal is Will Smith, whether they admit it or not. That's the goal. That's the reinvention. Because you can't rap. Honestly, the only rapper that can now rap, honestly, and do what these obviously singers do, and a lot of the rock bands they do too. They still touring in their like 60s, which is crazy. Is like Drake actually, because he sings too.
Yeah,
so he actually can sing. You can just do the singing part of his catalog, and won't have to do all the rapping stuff. He's actually one of those people that probably could do it. He's gonna be one of the only ones that can do it. So he'll probably be a billionaire pretty soon because he can do that. Like most rappers, by the time you get 40 plus, you're not touring and you're not making a ton of new music because you're almost 50
Yeah.
and you're just not cool anymore. I mean, it's hard. Lil Wayne, those guys can still rap, but there are a lot of other rappers and you kind of fall out of, being that elite rapper and
Yeah.
having, the top of your game.
No, you're
And
just rapping
you're
about long waits at the doctor's office.
yeah, like you're
Kids,
not doing
kids
that
keep
stuff.
throwing the balls in your yard and
Yeah.
so just rapping.
You're not living that life. Eminem is still really talented, but he lives a different life now. So the topics, exactly, they aren't the same. And he just came out with a new album, and I just listened to some of it, and some of it's really good, but it ain't the same Eminem. But we all remember the one with that gave you that visceral reaction because you could almost, he was palpable.
Yes.
The anger, the angst that he had, that was coming from a real place. Now, I mean, he's doing good. A lot of that art form comes from them being downtrodden and trying to prove something to the world, that kind of thing. Anyway, all right. Getting back to it, let's talk about the Texans and the Jets real quick. The Jets, Jets. This matchup makes me a little nervous for the Texans in a lot of ways because, first of all, they're down. No Nico Collins, no Stephon Diggs. They also are missing, you brought it up, they're going to be missing 2 starters. They're going to be missing Jimmy Ward and the linebacker.
Azeez Al-Shaair, who is
he's going to be out as well.
Really been the coach on the field for them on the defense. He's been that guy. And so his injuries, I know they kept trying to get him out there because they're just like, even if you're not 100%, you're the guy, you're the mind out there. He's worked with D'Amico Ryans a lot to be that guy.
Well, but Jimmy Ward too.
And Jimmy Ward is in the secondary, yeah.
Yeah, he's that same kind of guy back there as well.
Yeah, so they're both, because Jimmy Ward was with D'Amico in San Fran. Azeez Al-Shaair is a guy that he's worked with as a linebacker. Mm-hmm. They try and connect, and both them being out is not great.
On the road.
That defensively, you could see some miscommunications in there. I'll take Jalen Petrie, as much as I criticized him early on for missing, he seems like he's been playing a lot better and being a bit more disciplined, where he's not getting beat over the top as much as he was before, but still being an impact player in the run game. So he seems like he's kind of picked up where he was, because he was always playing well. It's just 1 or 2 plays a game. This is a big one for him with those injuries out, to not get beat over the top, but still be that impact player with a guy like Breece Hall.
No, I'm with you. It's and because the Texans' pass defense actually is pretty good. It's a mixed bag. They've allowed a league low 53% completion percentage, which is really good. But when they do give up completions, they're big completions. They've allowed 11.6 yards per completion. That's 27th. And 6.5% touchdown rate, which is 31st. So they're stingy, but when they give up something, it's usually a bigger play. As it kind of tracks with you're a Texans fan watching. It's like, yeah, they give up some big plays, but they don't give up a lot of plays. And so that's kind of the concern with the Texans defensively. And now without Jimmy Ward and without Azeez Al-Shaair, maybe they give up some more big plays potentially just because of miscommunications and breakdowns in the secondary and the back seven. Well, I will point out, I threw this out there earlier this week, and it confirms one of my assessments, one of my opinions I had about the Texans a couple of weeks ago after watching Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. I said, I think they might be the best pass rushing edge duo in the NFL. And that's saying a lot because there are a lot of really good ones. Nobody in the NFL except for the Texans have a pass rushing edge duo, with 2 guys, all right, at least 2 guys in the top 15 in pressures, except only Texans. They're the only team that has 2 players that are in the top 15 of overall pressures in the NFL. Danielle Hunter is first, and Will Anderson is 4th. So nobody has 2 in the top 15. They got 2 in the top 5. I really don't think, pass rushing wise, maybe there's a better run stopping edge duo out there, but pass rushing wise, I don't think anybody's more productive than that group. They really do a good job of consistently collapsing the pocket. But getting back to it for the Texans, the flip side is for the offense, how well they protect CJ Stroud, the most alarming stat about the Texans the last couple of weeks has been that CJ Stroud has faced career high pressure rates in back-to-back weeks. Like career highs. Like he's never seen as much pressure in the last 2 weeks in his career. He hasn't seen as much pressure because, and by the way, the Colts and the Packers, they did it with relatively low blitz rates. They didn't blitz a lot of twists and stunts, a lot of simulated pressures, but not a ton of blitzing to try to get C.J. Stroud. He handled it poorly versus the Packers, handled it a lot better versus the Colts. So I think he'll handle the pressure relatively well. But the concern is if that offensive line allows for another pressure rate over 50%, which they have done in the last 2 weeks, 50% or higher, we may have a serious issue with the Texans' pass protection and O-line. Yeah, then it's time to get the panic button out, and I will come really close to pressing it if they allow another really. And by the way, the Jets are good, but that would to me show you that would show me that they're not fixing the issues. They're not solving the problems. And protecting your biggest investment and your most important player, CJ Stroud, if that's something that doesn't become an emphasis or is not a priority for the organization and for the coaching staff, that would say a lot more, in my opinion, about where the Texans are headed. They got to fix that first and foremost. Got to.
Yeah, no, you have to be able to, especially with the amount of draft capital you spent on that offensive line, the amount of, this is where it's supposed to be that they were so unhealthy last year.
Yep. They were injured.
That you thought that this would be with them getting back together, a little bit better health this season. They still had a few injuries, that this would be the time that they would get together, but it just has not come together at all. And it doesn't feel like it's a bunch of misses in talent-wise, but they're not working together as a unit whatsoever. And the communication's poor. They're not picking up blitzes. I don't know if it's that in the interior of the D-line, they're just so young that they don't really have somebody to call out protections properly. I don't know if that's something that CJ Stroud is struggling with, that I would assume he's probably the guy doing it, but is that too much on his plate? You got young centers who just don't have a lot of playing time there. That would be the other person that would normally do something like that. But none of it seems like they're getting the protections right, that you're seeing misreads so often that he's getting pressured. And then guys are still getting beat in one-on-ones at points too. So you're going to get beat sometime, but you can't get beat and not play well together. You got to pick one or the other.
Mental errors.
Yes.
Yeah. They're both happening. And I'm with you. The talent's there. It's not a talent issue. It's not that they do have individual talent. These guys were drafted high and they've played well individually on their own at times.
Yeah.
But as a unit, they really do lack the cohesion. This is a game. It's pivotal. They get it together in this matchup, especially because CJ Stroud's going to need some extra time, because I don't think these receivers are going to be able to create a ton of separation quickly against the DBs of the Jets, because the Jets have good defensive backs and they can cover. They really can. I think they're going to play a lot of man-to-man, and I don't know if Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie, Robert Woods, Tank Dell he's a guy I think you can depend on to beat man-to-man, but they're going to key in on him. And I almost wonder if the Texans will be able to, if they should move him around a lot more in this matchup, considering he's going to be the guy you run the passing game through. Thank God for Joe Mixon in this matchup.
Yeah.
That's going to be big. Because they got a workhorse running back, right? When he starts, they turn him into a workhorse. Now I'm hoping that he can stay healthy with this type of workload. But against the Colts, 29 touches, 134 yards. I mean, that is workhorse stuff, guys. Since if you go look at it, in the 4 complete games he's played, 33, 15, 27, 29 touches. Man.
And I mean, you're not getting help tonight because Dameon Pierce is out. So when you take him out, there's someone to spell you just a little bit, give you a little bit of room to breathe.
Was it what's the fullback they have? Anubale?
Ogunbowale.
Ogunbowale. He plays tailback for him too a little bit. I guess you can put him out there just in passing situations. But yeah, I think he's gonna get another work. I think he's gonna get like 30 touches in this game.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think he'll get 30 based on what I'm saying. 33, 27, 29. He had a 15 touch performance in a complete game, but this is a game without Nico Collins, without Stephon Diggs. You're gonna need him. And he's been good. I mean, Mixon has been. How about this? He's been more explosive than any other time in his career, basically as a runner. If you look at runs of 10 or more yards, 15% over 15% of his attempts this season have been runs of 10 or more yards, essentially explosive runs. If that continues through the rest of the season, that will be a career high for him. It ranks 5th in the league among running backs with 50 plus attempts right now. He's 2nd in the NFL in runs out of two tight end sets. And if you go look at it, he has already run 71 runs this season with the quarterback under center. Last year was just 63. Guys, most of your power concepts, your gap and a lot of your gap and counter schemes and your power schemes, they are run the downhill running scheme. They are run with the quarterback under center to give him a downhill advantage as a running back. So that means the Texans are running more gap schemes than they usually would with Mixon. And if you go look at their running with more power sets with 12 personnel in the field, 1 back, 2 tight ends. And when he runs out of 12 personnel, he's averaged almost 6 yards per carry, 5.7 yards per carry. And his explosive run rate goes from 15.7%, as we talked about, which will be a career high, and it rises even more to 16.7% when he's running out of 2 tight end sets. And that would help solve your problem right now about your wide receiver depth issues as well, and some of your pass protection issues, because you could have more max protection and leave one of your tight ends in the block. Watch 12 personnel. Joe Mixon's better out of it. May solve some of your pass protection issues right now, and you don't have depth at wide receiver anyway. So why are you putting 3 of them out there when your 2 best ones are hurt? So that means something that might be an adjustment for Bobby Slowick in this matchup with the Jets too. Something to watch for.
Yeah, and I'll be really interested to see. This is a game for Mechie to really be able to step up. He's a 2nd round pick. We know, the leukemia definitely set him behind the schedule, but he was a guy coming out of college that was a 2nd round pick at wide receiver. See if he can start to get back in there. He's supposed to be 100% healthy. I know that takes a toll on your body, but if he can step back into that role and be somebody that is a 2nd round pick, he's a higher pick than Tank Dell was. We know Tank Dell's turned out to be great, but he was a 2nd round pick. And then Hutchinson, if you need somebody underneath, we know we saw him do it in college. We saw him be a very big 3rd down threat and that kind of guy in college. Mm-hmm. Can he fill that role tonight? So those 2 guys for me, we know what Robert Woods is. I think he's going to be used some because he's been with that offense for a little bit longer. And he just, before Nico stepped up and before Tank Dell came in, Robert Woods was really your number 1 at one point for the Texans. But I think before CJ too. But at the end of the day, I'm really curious to those 2 young guys that they've been behind so many great players. Now that you have to play, and now's your time, can either one of them step up and show that they can be a piece that you're not as worried about it going forward if you're not able to make a trade next week?
Yeah, I can't wait to see how Tank Dell steps up. It's been a tough, I think a tough start to the season for Tank Dell, just because he's had to really change his role with the team so much. Nico goes down, he becomes number 2. Stephon Diggs goes down, now he's going to be the number 1 guy, and he's coming off, an injury that ended his season last year, and he got shot in the off season. That's just a lot of transition for him to be going through. So hopefully, hopefully he kind of eases into this role as the number 1 guy, and hopefully they move him around.
Yeah,
I don't want them to just leave him on the outside. I think the corners for the Jets are really good. Sauce Gardner is one of the best corners in the NFL. So don't just leave him out there to be feasted on by those corners. I would put him in the slot, give him a chance to, get matched up against some safeties or to some of their minus coverage defenders because both of their corners are really good. And if you go look at it, the outside receivers, the Jets have allowed a league low 48% catch rate to outside receivers. The outside receivers, they're not very efficient because the corners are so damn good. So put them in the slot, and I think you'll have a little bit more success. Not all the time, but I think moving him around a little bit more will help kind of engineer matchup advantages for him. And on the flip side of that, because Diggs basically plays mostly outside receiver, but with Diggs out, I think there's an opportunity to move him inside to the slot. But on the flip side, for the Texans defending the slot, they've allowed 7 touchdowns to slot receivers. Yeah, most in the NFL, by the way. So watch Devontae Adams in the slot, because he's been in the slot more than he's usually been in his career. In his 3 games with the Raiders, he played the slot like 26% of the time, somewhere around there. And with the Green Bay Packers, sorry, not the Packers, with the Jets, he's already been in the slot 50% and 42% of the time. So they put him in the slot a lot, and Aaron wants to find him. He's not creating the separation he once did. Maybe it's because he's acclimating to the offense, but he has not been the receiver that he once was, even a couple of years ago with the Raiders. But we shall see. Hopefully that's not something that they remedy versus the Texans today. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into some Texas football discussion. We'll go behind the Burn curtain. We'll talk about Jahdae Barron's candidacy and campaign for the Thorpe Award, given out to the nation's best defensive back. We'll also dive into some other nuggets that I found doing some research about this Texas team in the bye week. We'll talk about third down for the Longhorns a little bit. We'll also talk about what they need to emphasize the most for the Longhorns, and what we want to see them improve on the most coming out of the bye week. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I'm trying to get to some Texas football conversation. I saw a stat about the Texas defense that once again kind of proves how impressive they've been all season long. They are, I believe, right now number 1 total defense, number 2 scoring defense, number 3 pass defense. So they're still ranked among one of the elite defenses in college football. But how about this stat? If you look at the highest percentage of total points allowed that followed an offensive turnover. So looking at your defense and points allowed, how many points allowed following an offensive turnover? Highest percentage. Texas has the highest percentage of points allowed following an offensive turnover. 33.7% of their points allowed, damn near 34% of the points allowed have come off turnovers. After an offensive turnover. All the short fields that Texas has to deal with. Texas defense has to deal with. If not for those short fields, if the offense is playing obviously in a little bit better rhythm, and playing at a more efficient level, defense will be even better. The defense is an elite defense, and is actually in spite of the offense and how the offense is played. The offense will get better. The offense has got they got some issues they're working on. So I think they'll get better. But just throwing it out there, that's how good the Texas. The lack of complementary football is really one of the biggest reasons. It basically is responsible for a third of the points they've allowed. I mean, think about it. They've allowed 10 scoring drives the last 2 games, and only 2 of those have been longer than 38 yards. And so it's just been short fields, mostly because of turnovers or miscues. That was a bad punt. Remember the punt before the half of the Vanderbilt game, 23-yard punt?
Yeah.
Basically gave them the ball deep in their own territory. I think they had 1 first down. I don't know if I think they had 1 first down. End up kicking a field goal. That's 3 points. Defense they wouldn't have marched down the field. So it's been 2 scoring drives in the last 2 games where the offense actually had to earn it. Had to go down the field and earn it against the Texas defense. They're so stingy. It's really hard. It's really, really hard to march down the field on them because they're so damn stingy. And let's say get you out there, and they don't really have a glaring weakness. I mean, they can, of course, they're not perfect, so you can make plays on them. But they don't have a glaring weakness. It's not like their rush defense is their Achilles heel, or it's not like, oh man, go attack that other corner opposite Jadae Barron. He gives up a lot. It's like, actually, he doesn't. Or their safeties are, can be exposed in coverage. Or, I mean, they don't have that. They don't have a weakness. You got to have a really good game plan dialed up against them. Georgia did a good job with the run early on. And then as the game, ended up playing out, Georgia's run game dried up. They didn't make many plays in the run game. Yeah. They made Carson Beck look like a mid-round pick at quarterback. He probably had his worst start of his career. That defense it's better than we realize, because the stats and they don't really give them the due and give them the respect that they should have based on the stats. Because like I said, the stats are distorted because a lot of the points that they've allowed have been easy, favorable field position, and have been kind of easy points because of the miscues of the offense for the opposing team. So I think ultimately we got to give the defense even more props. They are legit. They're the real deal. And at this point, there is no doubt they're the strength of the team. It's not the offense. It's the defense. The defense is the strength of this Texas team. And one of the best players on the defense, and you can make the argument he is the best player on the defense, maybe Jadae Barron. He's a semifinalist for the Thorpe Award. He'll definitely be a finalist for the Thorpe Award because he's playing like the best cornerback in the country. Pro Football Focus had him as their Thorpe Award winner in their mid-season awards. They had him as their Thorpe Award winner, and I believe they had him as the highest graded cornerback as well among the Power 4 teams. 20 targets on the season. This comes from Sports Info Solutions. 20 targets on the season. 35% catch rate allowed, 2 yards per target allowed, 40% ball hawk rate. And he's proven, and it's kind of how I said before the season started, the best way to promote him, or the best way to market him, I should say, probably as to get him to be a Thorpe Award finalist, is to market him as the most versatile DB potentially in the country. And Sark has remarked several times about him cross training at different positions and being able to play corner and nickel and safety. And he's played a lot of corner and nickel this season because in their nasty dime package, they just bump him inside and they have him playing the nickel in their dime package. And when they're in nickel, he's outside playing the corner. When they're in 40 personnel or base, he's outside playing the corner too. And there have been a couple of instances where he ends up sliding back to the safety position when they run their three high concepts. He ends up being one of the safeties. There are times when that happens. And I think situationally, formationally, there have been some times where he ends up playing like safety based on the nub side of a formation. Nub is basically when they just have a tight end, inline tight end. That's it. Nothing outside of him. Sometimes they'll end up in that and he'll end up over the top. So he hadn't played safety a ton. I actually was advocating they get him ready to play safety, and he is cross training to play safety, but get him ready to play safety in the Vanderbilt game in case Jelani McDonald wasn't up to the task. Well, Jelani McDonald had one of the best games we've seen from a Texas safety all year. So he is well on his way. So he didn't need Jahdae Barron there. But I think they still should, in a game, try to put him at safety. And not just for the sake of it, make sure that it's schematically or strategically made sense. He's going to give you an advantage, and I think it can. But man, he is, and with all the injuries you have at safety right now, with Derek Williams being out and with Andrew Bakuba being out for a while, I mean, it makes sense actually. You probably trust your corners, your backup corner right now. Maybe you trust some more of your backup safeties, but with Jelani McDonald playing well, no need to even pursue that. My point being, he is the most versatile defensive back in the country potentially. Now, I don't know if with Travis Hunter being out there, I don't know if you can say that he's the most versatile athlete playing DB because you got another guy that's playing both sides of the ball, but he plays corner, and that's what Travis Hunter does. There's no doubt he probably could play safe if they needed him to, but he plays corner, and he's the best probably coverage corner in the country. There's no doubt about that with Travis Hunter. So Travis Hunter is probably going to be in that conversation to be a Thorpe Award finalist. I think Jalen Catalon actually is going to be a Thorpe Award finalist too. Jalen Catalon is now at UNLV, but was at Texas last season, at Arkansas before that. And when he stays healthy, he plays an All-American level. Well, this season he's been healthy. He's got like 60-some tackles on the season, 4 picks, got I think a pick 6 as well, got a forced fumble. He's had a really good year for UNLV. And so I think he may make it. They usually only have 3 finalists for the Thorpe Award. You got 15 semifinalists. So Jahdae Barron's one of those. And I think he is a lock to be a finalist. And that may be the 3. That's my prediction, that's the 3 that you end up with as your 3 Thorpe Award finalists. But we shall see. But Jahdae Barron is playing himself into being a high draft pick. How high would depend on how he tests. You got to run fast to play corner in the league, or to be drafted how to play corner. You can play corner league, but to be drafted first round, that kind of thing, you got to be a freak. You got to prove you're a freak physically by your workout, your measurements, and how you test. But there's no doubt Jahdae Barron is playing himself into being a higher draft pick. His draft stock has got to be increasing. And I think his versatility is something that they're going to sell, or at least that's going to improve his draft stock even more. And I think that his agents and everybody else who's trying to sell or who's trying to, market and promote Jahdae, that's part of the narrative, is that he's versatile, can play any position pretty much in the secondary. And I think another part of it is, Jahdae Barron's football IQ is going to really accelerate his development in the league. This is a guy that wants to be a defensive coordinator when he's done playing football. He wants to be a DC. So he watches film like that. He's spoken several times about his dedication to film watching. I just watch him as a defensive back myself, and I can tell he does a tremendous amount of study. That is why he's able to jump routes and jump concepts so quickly. Remember at nickel how quickly he would jump concepts, and everything happens faster the closer you are to the football. So the action would be happening fast, and yet he would still be able to smother quick wide receiver screens, and he'd be able to smother a lot of the underneath quick game. I mean, this guy at one point had double-digit tackles for loss at the defensive back position. That does not happen. That is rare. All right, you don't get that unless you just are really aggressive. But not just aggressive, he reads all the clues and all the pre-snap indicators that are there. You can tell he gathers that up, and then post-snap, when it aligns, when the clues that he's gathering and indicators and the keys that he is observing, when they align and they track with his game planning and his film study, when all of that aligns, there is no fear, there's no indecision in his game, there's no doubt in his game. And that actually may be the most extraordinary thing about him, because there are a lot of guys who do. I did a lot of film study, and I would see those opportunities where, you see the formation, you see the personnel grouping, the down, the distance, all of the clues that you have game plan to study all align that say they're going to run this concept. That when they have twins in the boundary, in this form, and 11 personnel in this formation, all right, in a 2x2 with third and medium, that they love to run a double slant 77% of the time. And you see it before the snap, and you think to yourself, well, should I just jump it? Should I just put myself, should I inch over? Should I change my leverage and jump that? But then the doubt sets in, the indecision, the fear, essentially. What if I'm wrong? I've done all the work. I've done all the film study. I've dedicated myself to the process. And the process now is trying to reward me and telling me, dude, they're going to run the double slant. You should jump it. But then the doubt and the indecision and the fear, which haunts every human being, in that moment have you saying, well, if I'm wrong, I'm going to look like a fool out here. The fear of failure. All right. That's what's the fear that sets in. What if I'm wrong? And then you decide, all right, you know what? I'm going to play it with outside leverage. And they run the double slant, and you get a really good tackle because you were already thinking that. And you may even get a PBU out of it, which, I'm top 5 all time in PBUs at Texas. I got a lot of PBUs just like that. But if you want the pick 6, like Nathan Vasher, who is top 2 all time in interceptions at Texas, actually he's the all time leader if you include his bowl game stats in interceptions at Texas, you don't have the indecision, you don't have the fear, you don't have the doubt. There's no indecision. There's no insecurity in your game. You game plan for it. It tracked with your film study. You were a football investigator. You read all the clues, the keys, the indicators, and you believed in yourself. And you had the ultimate confidence to jump that route. And sometimes a little bit of recklessness to jump it too. Those are the great ones. That separates the great ones from the good ones. Right? And that's why Janae Barron, in my opinion, he does have a chance to be a great one. Because he jumps that stuff. And if you win the Thorpe, you're a great one, right? Hey, you got Thorpe Award finalist, you're a great one. I was never a finalist. I was a semi-finalist. I never got to the final stage because I was never that. I had too much indecision, too much fear, too much doubt in my game. The great ones don't have that. Why would you doubt yourself in that moment? All this preparation you've done, all the film study. Why do it all if you're going to have doubt in that moment? No. Go. Just go. Don't even think about the downside, or don't even think about what if you're wrong. You're not wrong. And I can tell you how many times I was in that situation and thinking, what if I'm wrong? And I was right. And if I just jumped that route, we're talking about a whole nother Rod B legacy at Texas. Thorpe Award finalist at Texas. Because all it would take was to believe myself. And if I had better hands, let's be honest. If I caught half the damn interceptions I dropped, that probably would have been a Thorpe Award finalist worthy season right there. Let's be honest. So that also is my fault. But my point is, he got better hands than Robbie, and he doesn't have the doubt and the fear in this game. It is a beautiful thing to watch. Because as a player, I remember having that, and I've watched so many players after me. I'm like, yeah, he saw it, but he didn't believe it. He saw it, but he didn't believe in himself enough to go jump it. Janae jumps it. He believes in himself. All right, let's get to the break. We'll get to on the other side, we'll get to some other off the record items, some of the wacky stories from the sports world and beyond. And then we'll continue on the other side of that next hour to talk about NFL matchups, news, notes, and nuggets coming up this weekend. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I can't believe this is real, but it is. I even know. Apparently, some people are upset about this. So Ryan Clark, who is an NFL analyst, stuff for ESPN, does a really good job. Former NFL player. He was dressing up as Bill Belichick for Halloween on one of their shows, like
Yeah.
as a bit. And he wore, I guess, I see, like looks like a Bill Belichick mask. It doesn't. It's not like white face from like the white chicks from the Wayans brothers.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a mask, and then they like put it on and everything. But people didn't like it. They got some people got upset by this that he dresses Bill Belichick with the mask on, and of course the mask is it's white.
It's a mask.
So here's the question,
right?
It's a mask. Here's the question. So I know. Obviously, I'm not with the black face or the white face actually painting the face. I know that's considered that's a non-starter, right? That's you can't do that. That's politically incorrect. You don't want people doing that. All right, so don't paint your face like another race. Is it cool to wear the mask?
I didn't
It
think
looks
that
like
was...
a mask to me. It doesn't like he painted. Some people, I was like, I don't think he. Now, if he painted it, I agree. That's considered. That's for a while now. That's been politically incorrect to paint your face for another ethnicity. That's not considered. We don't do that. All right, don't do it. You don't want the smoke from it. You can argue about you have the right to. I get that. Ain't nobody trying to offend anybody on Halloween. What about the mask though? Is the mask offensive too? To wear the mask?
I get why, because it looks way more realistic than.
As I say, but don't you think it's a mask?
It
right?
looks like a mask,
but
it doesn't look like Ryan Clark.
They definitely did the mask. He did the makeup on top. It's basically Hollywood. They did the Hollywood makeup on him and everything. But people got upset with this because I think they thought it was like best white face, like black face, any color face, in costume. I guess is considered offensive, so you don't want to do it. I guess people got upset with this because they thought this was that. But I don't know. You would have thought that they discussed this at ESPN and would be decided, you know what, let's just not do it because we don't want to deal with any of that. And they just like, hell with it. So they threw it out.
Yeah. No, I think they probably were like, oh, this will be funny. And then,
I don't know if it was funny. Yeah, I didn't watch the bit.
I didn't see the segment. I just saw his mouth and face move, and I was like, I don't like that one bit. But
it was creepy though, because it doesn't
super creepy.
Going back to what we talked about yesterday, it doesn't look like Belichick really. It's like that.
It doesn't really look like him, and it's one of those things of a mask like that where the mouth and eyes look super realistic and they move, right? So his mouth and his eyes look super realistic. The problem is the rest of the face doesn't move.
Yes, that's how I know it's a mask.
Yeah, so
and maybe that the mouth and the eyes are not, they're painted, but everything else is a mask.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is. That's a great point. I think you're right. I think that's yes, that's what it is. Anyway,
so it's just creepy, but
it's creepy as hell. It is scary. He looks like some scary, villain or some scary character from a horror movie. He does look like that actually. He looks like, matter of fact, it looks like somebody who cut the face off of a murder victim, or some serial killer, cut the face off murder victim and and is wearing the face. It's like
so a little bit of a Leatherface, Buffalo Bill.
Yes, that kind of thing. Yes, that's what
any of the people based off of Ed Gein.
Yes, that's what. Doesn't it look like that?
Little bit.
It kind of looks like
little
that.
bits.
Yeah, that's talk about real monsters. That good references there with you went through a bunch of them there. Good for you.
Well, there's people that are based off of Ed Gein.
Ed
Gein is
like that.
Ed Gein's the actual guy who murdered all those people and then wore their skin as.
It's like,
and then they question how many he actually killed or how many he just dug up, but he did wear skin as clothing, and then like apparently had like lampshades of skin. Real life person, not a movie.
Real monster. Yeah, y'all scared of these made believe monsters like that. That scares the hell out of me.
But that was like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't think it's Hannibal Lecter. I think it's Buffalo Bill that was based off of him too. And then there's one other. I can't remember off the top of my head though. There's one other like famous movie
serial killer,
villain guy that
portrayed in those
that is
movies.
Based off of Ed Gein. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That just gave me chills.
Oh,
Psycho.
Yeah, because he
was the one like dressing up as
it's his mom because because Ed Gein was super into his mom. I think he like killed his brother because his brother was talking bad about his mom. Something like that. Yeah.
Scary Halloween stories right here, kids.
Fun stuff.
See, and to me, that's always been scarier. That kind of stuff has always been scarier to me than anything supernatural or any type, any type of scary horror movie. those real life, like actual incidents that happen, or instances where someone like that, some psycho, some really demented
Yeah.
soul was doing crazy stuff like that, that freaks me out. That person actually lived and did those things.
Yeah.
That's boom. That we know he did that, and he wore skin and was digging up graves and doing just. He's like, that guy was just living amongst us, like no big deal. Like that's scary.
Yeah.
That freaks me out. That guy
No,
could be
the
my
fact that
neighbor.
guy
Like
lived
that dude
and
could be
then
my neighbor.
yeah, and the fact
You
that
know what I
people
mean?
were like, he was a nice guy.
Yes,
That's
and
the
that,
crazy.
yeah, he always was like, oh, I never saw anything wrong with him. I lived
Oh,
next to him for 15 years.
you
It's like,
mean you
what?
mean that clown that was at my kid's birthday party?
Yes.
Oh, he's got bodies buried under his house. Yeah, no, that's crazy. But that stuff always fascinates me.
Oh,
Scary movies I can't do because they just give me nightmares, and then I'm like,
yeah,
because
they just don't
it's just
sleep.
make believe.
Yeah.
It's like the grandiose characters, and then you just wake up and you're like, I know it's not real, but it
Yeah.
just sucks in the. I don't want to have the nightmare, so I don't want to do
Yeah,
it.
see, I'm the opposite. I can watch a scary movie, got no ill effects from it. Thinking about those types of stories, they make me distrust my own neighbors. Like
Yeah.
I look at everybody, I'm like, that guy could. It looks like he's giving me a serial killer vibe. That guy's giving me.
Oh, look at him waving at me.
Yeah,
I know what you're up to, mister.
Exactly. That's what I get paranoid just randomly, and I don't like to be that paranoid either. But all right, there you go. Enough talk about serial killers and psychopaths. Let's get back to sports. We'll come back. We'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Continue to preview the Texans and the Jets coming up tonight. Also, we'll give you that story about the headset communications being compromised. There's belief that it was more than just an isolated incident, or at least speculation from some that it's more than an isolated incident in the Big 12. So there's a cause for a Big 12 investigation into communications potentially being hacked and compromised. We'll talk about that coming up next segment. We'll also dive into some other college football news, notes, and nuggets. And we'll talk about the sitting and starting of a quarterback. Do you sit or start a young quarterback immediately? What's better for their overall development and growth? We'll discuss it because that's a big macro topic of conversation after Anthony Richardson ended up being benched. We'll also hear from their head coach, Shane Steichen, about that decision. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Mm-mm. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Halloween edition of the Rodcast, first and foremost. So thank you for joining us for the holiday edition of the show. But also, it's a new theme Thursday on the show, and that's when my co-host, the Idealionaire Patrick Davis, he comes up with all the musically themed days of the week. But on a new theme Thursday, he's inspired to come up with a creative theme. And because it's Halloween, pretty easy to come up with this theme. He was inspired to make all these songs on a new theme Thursday. Some Halloween related themes and songs, and we appreciate him for that. And of course, this is the number one Halloween song.
Well, it's the best because it's a great song.
It is a great song. We don't play it though.
No, I know, but it's a great song, and then it makes sense for Halloween.
Yeah, it wasn't made for Halloween. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
no, but
we only hear it once a year, and we hear it around this time.
Yeah,
and we're fine with it.
I'm sure there's people that listen to it. I've listened to this outside of Halloween.
Well, yeah, I'm sure at one point in your life, but no, not in the last 10, 15 years.
I have. I don't consistently listen to it outside of
You've
Halloween.
listened to Thriller outside of the Halloween holiday.
Yes.
In the last when? Why?
No, I was probably listening to Michael Jackson music.
I mean, yeah, but Michael Jackson, you jammed Thriller?
Yeah.
Out of all the great songs?
Yeah.
Really?
But it's in there. It's in the shuffle. Everything.
I think you're in the minority there. I think most people save Thriller for Halloween time. You just randomly pick it up. But you could, if you guys here listen to the catalog of MJ, it'll come up if you just join the shuffle, I guess. But Halloween is, for some reason, some songs, a lot of songs, we only play around this time. So behind Christmas is probably your most you have the most amount of themed songs. And it's not themed for Halloween, but songs we only hear around this time of year.
Yeah, songs that had their life when they came out.
Yes.
And then now are just Halloween.
They're only revived for Halloween.
Yeah, because like Monster Mash is the Halloween song. Like that is for Halloween. There is nothing about it that is non-Halloween.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that probably came out on Halloween or something.
Yeah, I mean, like that was we said it was on top of the charts Tuesday this week because it was number one because it was Halloween week.
It was number one too. Number one, Monster Mash. I would say it does jam.
Well, it makes sense because
at the time it must have been really good.
Yeah, and back in the day, you're calling the radio station, being like, "Play Monster Mash again," because it's Halloween week, and let's all listen to the Monster Mash.
Monster Mash, man. Like I said, it is pretty timeless. Like we still jam when it come out, like in the early 60s.
Yeah.
And it's still around this time of year. They still jam it. It came out, comes out. I said, when was it released? Tell me they definitely released it. They released it in August. So it wasn't even released like around Halloween. I'm not joking. It was released in August 25th. So maybe they gave it they wanted to give it like a month to rev up for Halloween instead of releasing it around Halloween. Monster Mash.
I mean, it's the B-side.
Yeah. It was number one on the charts on October 20th and 27th of that year it came out, though. So maybe they just did that too. They wanted to leave. They want to release it on that day. It wouldn't chart on Halloween. Yeah. They wanted to chart on Halloween. Yeah, so I think they wanted to let's get it out there, get people in the Halloween mood. And on Halloween, that's all they'll ask for. Like, can I hear that Monster Mash over and over again? Then they'll just play it or play the hit. There you go, Monster Mash. There you go. That's way too much history about Monster Mash. You probably didn't even want to know that.
Oh, it says as of 2023, the song was generating $1 million annually in royalties.
And we only play it around basically once a year. That's crazy. Damn. So maybe that's the reason you want to make a hit that's specific to a holiday. Because for the next 30, 40 years, they'll be playing that damn song on that holiday if you can make it one of those. Wow. I think about Mariah Carey on Christmas. Like she's got one of those.
Whoa, yeah.
Like if you can get, what I mean? If you can get like basically Nat King Cole's estate is still getting paid off of that Christmas jam he made. I think about Christmas is a holiday where these guys been making money off of that. If that song makes $1 million annually, think about what some of these Christmas songs are making. That you hear over. They got damn stations that just play Christmas music. I believe they start right after Halloween, like right after Thanksgiving.
I think you need to write an iconic song for another holiday that is underutilized because Monster Mash, the thing is, every Halloween, like any movie or anything, you're going to license it because you're like, everyone knows it. It means Halloween. Whereas Christmas, you're like, I got my options.
Yo,
I pick out 900 songs, and I can pick out
Yeah.
public domain songs.
Yeah.
I don't have to
Yeah.
pay for.
You
But
ain't-
that one, you're
yeah,
like,
sure.
I gotta get Monster Mash. That's the
Great
one I
point.
gotta get. So you gotta get a song that's like the song for another
another holiday.
Yeah.
So what's the holiday then? July 4th is it's kind of you could, but it's tough because the patriotic thing. You just got to make a song about USA, and I think Miley Cyrus kind of did it. She's got that song with USA and Bruce Springsteen. Yeah, you got to play that.
Yeah,
on, I imagine July 4th. But yeah, I don't know what holiday. I think what holiday you're gonna choose to make a song.
Oh, you know what? You know what day? This is a day that no one do a Father's Day song. No one else is gonna do it. No one else will ever. You just have that, and then everyone will just be like, "No, I just played that song," and then that's what I did for Father's Day.
There's no Father's Day songs. That's a Mother's Day. That's a lot of Mother's Day songs.
Well, there's a lot of songs about mothers, so they work on.
That's songs about mothers. That's what I'm saying. That's songs about mothers you can play on Mother's Day. There's no Father's Day songs.
No, you write the hit Father's Day song. You're good to go.
The truth is, it wouldn't be a hit because guys are guys, and we wouldn't celebrate it. We think it was a weird song, and we would. The reason the Mother's Day song
is not a weird song.
That's true. That is true. That's a great point. But my point is, women are more likely to celebrate that kind of stuff. Yeah. Guys, we wouldn't. No, we wouldn't promote it well enough. We wouldn't. The Father's Day song, we would think it was too cheesy. And would it be? What kind of song would it be?
No, just a song.
R&B.
It's Father's Day party. That's
Father's Day party. Father's Day won't even do anything.
No, and then it's just a party of fathers that all get together, and then they do a dance like the Monster Mash. It's perfect. Yeah. It's
you gotta have the dance too, the Father's Day dance along with the song.
Yeah.
That's how you make it go viral. That's true.
Yeah,
that's how you make it go viral. Father's Day song. All right, there you go. All right, that's actually not a bad idea. But I did not know that about Monster Mash. Who knew? $1 million annually. Still, I mean, that's crazy. So it came out in the 60s and it's still doing that.
That family is just like, how'd you pay for college? Like, Monster Mash.
Monster Mash, do they? They're like,
how'd you buy that? How do you afford this nice house, Monster Mash?
They got Monster Mash wealth. They really did. They have to. I mean, that's amazing. Good for them. That is, God bless them. It's amazing how you can generate. You can generate, that kind of generational wealth, and they did it via a Monster Mash song. I wonder if anybody in the family still writes like music. And I wonder how they divide it up too. Man. All right, there you go. So now I got to dive down a rabbit hole about Monster Mash when we're done with the show. All right, let's get to the Horn headlines first. Then we'll dive back into Texans versus the Jets. Jets, Jets. Also, I want to get into this story about the headset communication being compromised. At least that is a conspiracy theory, but there will be an investigation into it. What we do know is that the headset communications were vulnerable to being hacked because they were unencrypted. That is a fact. Why they were unencrypted, I have no idea. Why the hell would you have something unencrypted these days when all the cyber crime going on? That's crazy. But anyway, we'll get to that story coming up. But first, let's get educated. Let's get updated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Spurs lost to the Thunder 105-93. Lou Dort had 20 points and Chet Holmgren added 19 more. The Thunder took advantage of 22 Spurs turnovers to get the win and remain unbeaten. Tonight, the Spurs take on the Jazz while the Rockets and Mavs face each other in Dallas. In the World Series, the Dodgers seized on the Yankees' defensive collapse in the fifth inning to win Game 5 7-6 and win the World Series 4-1. Freddie Freeman was named the World Series MVP, and the Dodgers have now won their second World Series in 5 years. And in the NFL, the Texans go up against the New York Jets tonight on Thursday Night Football. Houston will be without several key players, including Jimmy Ward, Azeez Al-Shaair, Dameon Pierce, and wide receivers Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs, who tore his ACL last weekend. And that's your Horn headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We appreciate those. All right. I want to get to this story about the headset communications first, and we'll get back to some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. This is a somewhat bizarre story. So Texas Tech They asked the Big 12 to investigate the possibility of its coach-to-player communication being compromised, essentially being hacked in the last 2 games. And the last 2 games were against Baylor and TCU. In those games, Baylor beat Texas Tech 59-35 in one game, and that was in Lubbock. And TCU came back from a 31-14 deficit in the third quarter to beat the Red Raiders in Fort Worth. That's important because you got 2 different places here, 35-34. The Big 12 is going to honor the request of the Texas Tech Red Raiders, and they are going to initiate an investigation into whether the communication, headset communication, was compromised or hacked. Basically, there have been nothing but glowing compliments and endorsements of the headset communication, and everybody has been very open about how successful the transition has been and for the headset communication. So this is the first story that is contrary to that. How about this, though? It says here that the company, the vendor for all the Power 4 conferences for the headset communication was GSC. They're a Wahoo, Nebraska-based company that was contracted out, given the contract for the headset communications for all the Power 4 teams and the Power 4 conferences. They did reveal that their software was unencrypted, that they were using unencrypted frequencies that, yes, could indeed be hacked, actually pretty easily, by anyone who had knowledge about the use of scan technology. They did admit that, and they admitted that on Wednesday, yesterday. As a result of that, of them admitting and them revealing that information, the Big 12, Big 10, ACC, and SEC, they informed their middle schools that the Wahoo, Nebraska-based company, GSC, had a software update that was going to provide the much-needed ensured encryption protection for the privacy of play calls that were delivered from the coach to player. So with that software update, and by the way, a spokesman for the SEC, he said they developed an update to resolve the issue, and we have made our schools aware of their ability to update their systems at a time of their choosing. CDC actually was in this article, and he was asked about it, and he said he wasn't aware of any issues during games in which the coach-to-player communication had been compromised. But Texas Tech was pretty adamant that they want an investigation into whether there was some, foul play. On Wednesday, Tech actually purchased $70,000 worth of encrypted coach-to-player communication from Coach.com, a competitor of GSC, for the Red Raiders game at Iowa State on Saturday. According to multiple sources, the Big 12 and SEC, a frequency operator at AT&T Stadium preparing for the Texas A&M Arkansas game on September 28, notified the SEC that coach-to-player communication was occurring on unencrypted frequencies, and they were vulnerable to scan technologies. And in the Big 12, equipment managers at each school were told of the situation, but not the athletic directors. Apparently, Texas Tech AD Kirby Hocutt raised concerns about the matter on an athletic director's conference call on Tuesday. And he said he wasn't aware of the matter until Tuesday, like that day. So we shall see what comes out of this. But my best guess would be this was not necessarily a team or some, if they were indeed hacked, by the way, if the comms were indeed hacked, I think it's more of a hacker or a practical joker outside of the 2 teams that's doing it for another reason altogether. I don't think it's being done with malice by the opposing team to gain an advantage. Number one, just logistically, it'd be really tough to obviously hack the communications and then decipher the play, relay the information, and then have the coaches act on it. That's a lot. I'm sure it's a way to do it and gain advantage. But like I said, it'd be tough for the opposing team to do that. The Connor Stallions thing, keep in mind, that was, although a very expansive, elaborate operation, there was a lot of work that was done pre-scouting before they got a chance to play the team in advanced scouting of the team. And he would go there, gather information, and then had time to decipher it, and then was able to tell the coaches or what to anticipate, the information about what to anticipate during the game. So this would be a little bit different, but I mean, it's not impossible. It just seems like a little improbable that even after the Connor Stallions thing, that a team, number one, would still engage in such an elaborate operation. Like this would be like an Ocean's 11 thing. You got to have, like, the hacker got to be close to on the scene, and then be able, all the coaches would have to be in on it to be able to relay the information to the coaches. I'm not saying it couldn't happen or stuff like this doesn't happen. I just doubt that this was the case in this particular situation. I think if they were hacked, it was a rogue hacker, somebody outside of either teams or outside of either, or organizations, period. I think it'd be some outsider doing it, and probably doing it as a practical joke, or probably doing it to brag to his friends or something like that. I don't know if he'd be doing it with a sinister purpose, meaning to give one team an advantage over the other. But and how you would do that is also something you'd have to really think about and ponder.
Yeah,
how does that give you an advantage?
Because it seems possible, but you wouldn't be able to have anything really on site because it's too risky to have it on site. On
game days, it's hard to park some random van or something outside of something. You got to be in a building. Yeah,
it would have to be something where you're going to somewhere off where you're not in the stadium, because if you're in the stadium, you get caught too easily, and then communicate out to get to steal it outside the stadium to send it back into the stadium. And then for the person to get it, for them to not let anybody know that they're getting it, and then make the call. It seems possible, but just very unlikely, because it would be such blatant cheating that it's so over the top. And normally it is somebody that's a lower level person doing it, like Connor Stallions, where it's something that's way off the beaten path, where everyone else can deny any accountability if it does end up being the case. So, yeah, I don't see any offensive or defensive coordinators, play callers for any of these teams risking their entire future to win a game against Texas Tech in the Big 12 play. And not just Tech, against anyone in Big 12
I feel but the way you said it was funny. Not Texas Tech.
But against anyone in Big 12, I don't think I'm going to be like, you know what? Maybe this will work. Also, I'm going to wait till the fourth quarter to do it. So we'll be down by 25 points. So it'll be super obvious something happened up, right? No, it doesn't make sense in that's the reason. But it does also, on the flip of that, why are they not encrypted? They should be. It's silly that they're not. So yeah, you should get them encrypted. It makes maybe more sense that somebody who does stuff like that as a hobby, that's a fan of Texas Tech in Lubbock, was like, oh no, I can pick them. Yep. No, I can hear your play calls.
Yep. And bet almost I bet I can do it. I bet I can hack this down.
Yeah, it's I can take it out. And so you have that, and they go, well, if someone can do it, then someone can use it for the wrong purposes. So you need to get fixed. So yeah, I wouldn't say that it was most likely cheating. I would say it's most likely somebody did figure out, though, that it was unencrypted and it became a problem. Or it could have just been a tech guy that's there that was like, why are these unencrypted? And he goes, what does that mean? He goes, it means anybody can steal your play calls. Because I've worked at plenty of offices where the tech guy walks in and says something, and everybody goes, what? And he goes,
that's a thing?
Yeah, just to let you know, you're completely vulnerable to anyone taking this over at any time. You're like, what? Huh? What's that?
Yep. No, you're right about that. No, because think about it. They didn't, guys, we're more than halfway through the season now. And they just figured out, the people that contracted this company to be the supplier of headset communications for the entire Power Four, conference. So the entire alliance of the Power Four conferences. You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar, entity. Right? And we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar arm of the sports industrial complex. And they didn't even have encrypted software. and that means the people that contracted out, they didn't even ask initially. It wasn't like they were misled. No, they never asked. If they'd asked initially, the company probably would have been like, all right, you guys insist on encryption. Okay, you know what? We'll get it done. We'll update that. They obviously updated as soon as they were alarmed by whatever was going on. They were like, oh yeah, we should get the encryption. And it was not a problem for them to do it. So they either didn't do it because it probably was a cost issue, probably cost them more money to have encryption, whether it be the software updates or getting somebody to code it or whatever it is, or maintaining it, whatever. It's cost them more. It's probably cheaper the other way. But on the other side of it, if you're the whoever negotiated this deal, the officials in charge of it for the Power Four, they never asked about it. And it never came up until, like Patrick said, somebody walked in there in the tech and was like, "Hey man, you know these things are unencrypted, dude. If I wanted to, I could hack into all y'all stuff." And they were like, "Excuse me? Oh yeah, it was probably some student." "Oh yeah, I hack into stuff all the time. Don't tell anybody. But I hack into the grades and I change my grades and stuff. It's really cool." And they're like, "What? Excuse me? You can hack into this? Somebody call that company right now and see if this is encrypted." And they were like, "No, your software is not encrypted, sir." What the hell? And they probably set off a chain reaction of events. Just that simple. And so it probably wasn't that they got hacked. They probably just found they could get hacked, like you said.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, it's possible? Like, yeah, it's very possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and then of course, Joey McGuire and the AD and everybody would go, "No, they're all conspiring against us. They want to keep Texas Tech down."
Hey, like you said, they had some embarrassing losses though. When you
They
give up a
did.
2-touchdown lead in the third quarter, and yeah, I mean, so that's probably a big. And you lose 59-35 in Lubbock. Yeah, the other narrative. That's easier. Let's sell that. Let's sell that we got.
Do you think they knew it wasn't encrypted from the whole season and they just waited?
Yeah, that's probably good. That's a great idea. It's a good point. Yeah.
Hey, we know
That's
this.
very
Hold on to that one until we need it.
Yeah. We lost 2 in a row. What? Okay, you know what? Release that information. Release it.
What's this new information I just received? Cross out the date.
Yeah.
Cross out the date.
And then they purchased their own encrypted coach-to-player communications for $70,000. So they're really upset. The competition. They went and invested in the competition because we got screwed by GSC, man.
Come on.
Their irresponsibility, the irresponsible entity, GSC.
If
they really screwed us over.
If they start hanging fake banners like the Aggies, would have won if it wasn't for the non-encrypted.
It wasn't for GSC. You know, ruined our season. GSC. We're on a run. We're getting ready to make.
By the way, Georgia had our GSC when they had.
Oh yeah, their
that's
stuff.
what
went
happened
out.
to us, right?
They went out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
First half they had it. That's what it was.
And I did research it because I was like, that is fishy. I wonder if Kirby Smart's up to something. Because when your stuff doesn't work, when your headset communication goes out, they have to stop using theirs.
Yeah.
Like you have to so you can make it as fair as possible. And I mean, they said it went out for just a few plays. It went out for a few plays and it was back on. So it wasn't even. It wasn't that much of an advantage. I don't even know if they needed that. That was a butt whipping either way.
Yeah.
That headset communication or not.
Yeah. And if they were, it was not helping on the other side of the ball.
Exactly. I was like, I don't know how much it helped.
hey, Carson, we got a favor. We're going to cheat on the defensive end. So we're going to need you to throw some interceptions, really even it out so we don't look so like we're cheating.
that was an ugly quarterback. There's a lot of money lost in quarterback draft stock in that game for both Quinn and for Carson Beck. It really was. I don't even know if it's going to recover really after both of them. And they got to have some really big games. They got to have some good games and big games.
Yeah, for
their draft stock to recover. But we shall see. Speaking of big games, the Aggies, every game I guess is a big game for them because they control their own fate heading into the SC title game. But one of my favorite follows on Twitter is Stats So War. He does a great job with deep dive analytical stats, and he does these projections about the game, who has the best chance to win. Then he does all these statistical comparisons, and he did an early projection for the Texas A&M game, and we'll get into that a little bit. I think it was pretty interesting in terms of percentages to win, chances to win. I think people will be surprised by what the analytics tell us about the Texas A&M matchup. We'll get into that. We'll also talk more about the Anthony Richardson story, to sit or to start a quarterback. That has become a big hot topic among NFL fans and in NFL front offices after Anthony Richardson ended up being benched. Turns out the Colts are, they're backtracking on their decision to start him early. And I think now it may be better to sit him. We'll hear from Shane Steichen and also talk about that. I went and did kind of a deep dive, went down the rabbit hole looking at when quarterbacks made their first start, and is there a trend? Is one method more successful than the other to sit a quarterback a certain amount of games? What's the magic number? Is there a magic number? The quarterback sits this many games, then it leads to higher chances of success overall at the quarterback position in terms of their growth and development. We'll examine a little bit. I'll talk about that. We'll also get into more Texans and Jets discussion. So a little bit of a smorgasbord in Rod's Rant when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some NFL discussion. I want to talk about the Texans and the Jets. Got that game coming up tonight. Also, I'll get into the research I did about the quarterbacks, whether to start or sit them. Is there a pattern or a trend that leads to more, success, better method of quarterback development? We'll talk about that coming up here in just a second. But let's talk about the Texans and their game coming up versus the Jets tonight on Halloween. Scary situation that the Texans are in going on the road without the two main weapons in the passing game for CJ Stroud. No Nico Collins, of course, still dealing with the hamstring injury. He's going to be out, of course, for this game. And no Stephon Diggs because he's got a season-ending injury towards ACL versus the Colts. So 44% of your completions, basically, for CJ Stroud for this season are unavailable to him in this game. My concern is that the weapons you do have, and I think these guys are good players, but they're not dudes. They're just, guys who can make some plays for you, but can you trust them to consistently beat man-to-man coverage against a really good secondary? Because the corners for the Jets are two of the best corners in the NFL, and they can match up man-to-man against Robert Woods, against Xavier Hutchinson, against John Mechie. Tank Dell, I believe, he's the guy you got to find a way to force feed him the football. He becomes your number one guy with Stephon Diggs out and Nico Collins. He hasn't had the type of year that he had last season before the injury. But if there's any time for him to step up, it would be now. And he's got to, they got to move him around a little bit. We'll talk about why that is the case. But for the Texans they got to stay out of third and long. We've talked about that over and over again. And for the Texans, that's really important because the Jets are really good on first down, actually. They allow 4.2 yards per play on first down. That's the fewest in the NFL. So they're good on first down. They're really stingy on first down. The Texans have had issues moving the football on first down, being productive. Now with Joe Mixon, that has not necessarily been the case. It's been pretty, it's a pretty simple solution. Give it to Joe Mixon early on. We'll talk about how productive he's been too. But watch first down. Going to be important because bad first downs for Texans usually lead to long third downs. Long third downs, it's a problem for anybody, but not as much of a problem when you're throwing to Nico Collins and you got a Stephon Diggs. With Nico Collins, he was always looking for Nico on third and long, and that's why he was converting third and long at a higher rate than any quarterback in the NFL and had more third and 10-plus yard completions and conversions last season than any quarterback in the league. But without your number one guy, Nico Collins, and without your number two in Stephon Diggs, it's even more imperative that you stay out of third and long. If you are the Texans, you got to be in third and manageable. Third, that means third and medium or third and short. If you're in third and long against this defense, considering the pass protection issues you have had, because you've allowed a career high, all right, pressure rate for CJ Stroud in the last 2 weeks against the Packers and the Colts. He's been under more pressure than any back-to-back game stretch since he's become the starter with the Texans. You cannot allow that pressure rate in this game to creep close to 50%. If it does, that could be a problem, especially if they can tee off on third and long situations when they know you're going to throw the football. So Joe Mixon is key in this game, in my opinion, to keep them ahead of the chains, make sure they win on first down, and the offensive line is going to be key because I think CJ Stroud's going to need some time to be able to deliver the football on the money to receivers who are going to struggle to create separation against these Jets defensive backs. That's just the reality of it because they're good. The Jets corners are two of the best in the NFL, and your wide receiver room is now depleted of his two top weapons. So do the math. Your passing game may not, it may not be the way it may not necessarily be that effective in long situations. Not saying they won't be able to get open in some of the quick game. If you talk about deep progression reads downfield, that's something. If I'm the Texans, I want to stay out of those situations where I have to do that. I'm saying you won't do it, but when you have to do it, and also something to consider. I wouldn't mind seeing a lot of 12 personnel in this game. One back, two tight ends. Think about it. Your top two receivers are out. So why would you put three receivers out there? If anything, I'd rather have. I think I might want my second tight end out there, as opposed to my fifth string wide receiver out there, my fifth best wide receiver out there.
Yeah.
And then I would put 12 personnel out there. And here's the kicker about 12. Joe Mixon, actually, he's second in the NFL right now with runs out of 12 personnel. So they like to run him out of 12 personnel. He's got 54 runs out of 12 personnel. One back, 2 tight ends. He's averaged 5.7 yards per carry on those plays, and his explosive play rate is approaching 17% explosive play rate or run rate on those runs behind 12 personnel. And they've been running them in power situations too. Actually, he's got 70 runs this season with the quarterback under center. Last year total, that was 63. So under center says more power concepts, downhill running game. And having 12 personnel helps that because you can win the mass advantage. You put more big bodies on the field instead of 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers. You got 12 with 2 wide receivers, and your yards per carry is hell, you damn near 6 yards per carry for Joe Mixon. So he likes running out of it. Your explosive run rate is higher out of 12 personnel than it is any other time. And by the way, Joe Mixon has career highs right now, or at least he's trending toward having a career high in explosive run rate with 15.7% of his runs currently for 10 yards or more. So he's on pace for a career high in that number, even more so with 12 personnel. So watch 12. That would help you in pass protection, which that's an issue. And you can have your second tight end on the field as opposed to your fourth or fifth best wide receiver on the field. And Joe Mixon likes it with the running attack. That's what I would do. I start off in 12.
And don't forget that second tight end now is they picked him up. That's another CJ Stroud guy. It's Cade Stover from Ohio State.
Oh, they like him too.
Yeah, and he's a CJ Stroud. He's played with him at Ohio State. So it's another target that he is comfortable with. They do like throwing to him. So yeah, that's a good call on that one. I think they will probably go with that because it lets you have Dalton Schultz and Cade Stover on the field at the same time. It gives someone that he's more comfortable with. And even if you're not using him in pass pro or they're breaking out on pass pro and there's pressure, it gives you more short-term or short-range options and lets you use Tank Dell more in a role that's, I think, fits him better. Because if you're just having to use Tank Dell across the middle and just letting him get lit up,
it's not good. That's not a good recipe.
You want to put him where he's in control of the hits he's taken and where he's going to be getting it and getting in open space. I don't want to put him in as many across the middle catches in that, So that's where I would put it. But I like that. Yeah, I like 12 personnel because you can run the ball easier. And Cade Stover has been a pretty good tight end for them this season.
Yeah, they like Cade Stover a lot. I keep hearing about him. I haven't kept up with his production, so I don't know, how many passes he's caught or anything like that. But everybody's target share should increase.
Yeah.
I mean, you just lost your top 2 in terms of target share leaders. No Nico Collins, no Stephon Diggs. So Tank Dell's target share should go through the roof. So should Dalton Schultz. Say that 5 times fast. So should Dalton Schultz. His should go through the roof. And I like what you said though. I don't want to expose Tank Dell to too much and over the middle. I don't want him in a situation where he's getting knocked around too much. I want him in open space. So I agree with you on that. And that's usually kind of on the edges, but they should put him in the slot. Don't put him out wide a lot because the Jets corners, Sauce Gardner being one of them, they've allowed a league low 48% catch rate to outside receivers. They lock those guys down really well. Like I said, they're good corners. What they struggle with is defending slot wide receivers. And I know Tank Dell, he usually plays on the outside. I would move him around and put him in the slot a lot more in this game. I wouldn't run him over the middle as much. I agree with Patrick on that. But you can start a lot of his targets from the slot instead of work smarter, not harder, instead of having him match up against elite cornerback play against Sauce Gardner and 2 of the better cornerback duos, I should say, in all of the NFL. Also, from the flip side, so talking about slot receivers and slot cornerbacks, Jimmy Ward is going to be out for the Texans. And defending the slot has been a bit of an issue. Jalen Petrie, I love Jalen Petrie. I think he's great. I think he's been more stable lately. But defending slot receivers has been an issue. They've allowed the Texans the most touchdowns to slot receivers in the NFL. 7 touchdowns against the Houston defense from the slot, I should say, from the slot. That's a lot. And they've been putting Devontae Adams in the slot more. He was in the slot 50% of the time in one of his games and 41% of his snaps in the other game for the Jets. It was only at 26% slot rate when he was with the Raiders. So they're putting him in the slot. Texans have issues covering the slot. That is something to watch if you are a Texans fan. And the last little nugget that I want to get to here about the Texans is, man, you go look at ultimately their defense. Their defense is good. Texans defense is good. So I'm not saying it's not a good defense. Their pass defense actually it's a mixed bag. It's it's good, but also it's at times it can be bad. That's what I mean. They have a 53% completion rate. So when they've allowed completions, they allow very few of them. All right. That's a league low, by the way. 53% completion rate. But the completions they do allow are bigger plays or chunk yardage plays. So we look at yards per completion. They're damn near 12 yards per completion, 11.6. That's 27th. And touchdown rate allowed, they're 31st, 6.5% touchdown rate allowed. They're only ahead of the Panthers, by the way, 31st. So they're stingy, but when they do give up a play, a play in the passing game, it's usually a chunk yardage play. And I almost wonder against the Jets if they'll try their best to, now without Jimmy Ward and Aziz Al-Shaair, that's going to be a problem too. You could have miscommunication there. Those are their two veterans. Those are the guys who have been with D'Amico the longest as well, because he brought Jimmy Ward over from San Francisco. Aziz is someone he had worked with prior as well. So on the road in hostile environment, you could potentially have some miscommunication errors in the back end just because of the lack of veteran experience that you have back there. So that's something to watch. Devontae Adams in the slot, but also watch the Texans and that pass defense. Even against the Colts, right? That first game against the Colts, they held him to lower than 50% completion rate, but 3 of those were 50, 60-yard bombs.
Yeah.
That's concerning versus Aaron Rodgers. You got to watch that.
Yeah. No, I like it. I mean, Aaron, I don't know how much of an arm, if he can still get the ball 40, 50 yard, like Anthony Richardson can put bombs down the field. He's got the arm talent. A 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if he's putting the ball down the field quite as effectively, but you still have to make sure to not let a guy like Devontae or somebody with a big body that can get over the top of you, and then you're trying to chase him and tackle him and let him out. But I mean, we're also not even talking about Garrett Wilson just being a beast over as well.
Yeah, he's a true number one. It's not Adams. Devontae Adams.
No, Garrett Wilson is a beast.
Yeah.
So you say Devontae Adams should be great with Aaron Rodgers, but Garrett Wilson's really good. Breece Hall is really good. So they have some really good players on that offense. I do like, now that you're saying that, I like running a few plays in 22 as well, and just running pass plays out of 22 with Dario Ogunbowale, with Mixon, Ogunbowale, Stover, and Schultz. You have 4 pass catchers out of that 22 right there. And then you can put Tank on a fly route or something like that. But I like that 22 because you can then run the ball. If they stack the box, cool, we can run behind with massive blocking. Or we can split all 4 of those guys out into a rotation and let your defense try and figure out where we're going when you have linebackers and stuff, and you don't have your DBs are trying to figure out who to guard and what they're going to do. I think you could run that a few times during the game and confuse some people as well.
I like that idea too. Yeah, just present that power personnel group, and if they don't match up with it, run the damn ball, run it right down their damn throat. But they match up with it, throw it.
Yeah, because I mean, how many teams have 2 tight ends they can throw to and 2 running backs they feel comfortable? Because Ogunbowale, they've been throwing out of the backfield plenty too.
Yeah, I mean, we caught that touchdown a couple of games ago, and they love throwing the Mixon out of the backfield too. Oh, and then that may put you in a man-to-man situation with Tank Dell on the outside that you can take advantage of. Max protect. I like the way you're thinking. That's the good stuff there. I like that. All right. Hopefully the Texans follow some of our advice. We'll see tonight if they can pull off the win against the Jets. All right. We come back. We'll get ready to wrap this thing up and put it in the oven. We'll play Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. And then based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, we have to identify and recall who said that. We'll play that when we come back on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Rivers coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday. That's when my co-host, the Idillionaire Patrick Davis, comes up with all the musically themed days of the week. But on New Theme Thursday, he is inspired by something going on. And today, well, what's going on is Halloween. He's inspired to come up with a new creative theme, and thus that is the reason for a new theme Thursday. And today, of course, the theme is all about Halloween, which we're all getting ready to celebrate. Hopefully you have a great Halloween. Thank you for joining us for the holiday edition of the Rodcast. Patrick also comes up with the topic for the big fat poll today. We appreciate him doing that as well. That is already posted at the Horn ATX on X. And it's a pretty simple question for you Texans fans out there. What position should the Texans pursue most at the trade deadline? 47% of you say offensive line. Wow, even though they've invested a ton in that offensive line already. 33% of you say wide receiver. That's probably where I am. And 13% of you say the secondary. 7% say linebacker. All right. Thanks, Patrick, for the topic for the big fat poll today. Now it's time to get into who said that. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. And based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify and recall who said that.
I was who I was back then. And as I'm continuing to grow and mature, my early years are adding up. Is that compound interest? Is that compound effect? So every single day, I'm approaching it to be a man of increase and imitate Christ. So as I continue to do that, dog, the sky is the limit. And if the sky's the limit, you can't say the sky's the limit when people have been on the moon, So I'm going to keep on going up.
Right.
I'm going to keep on inspiring people and hopefully, somebody grow from that.
Oh, man, that is great. There's so many good ones in there. What the heck? Compound interest.
Is that compound interest?
That was fantastic. Oh, and then how you gonna say you shoot? What do you say? How
He
you
said,
say
he
you
goes, I shoot for the sky.
for the-
And how can you say the sky's the limit when
somebody's on the
someone's
moon?
been on the moon? Such a Jamie son.
Oh, well done, man. Jameis, I gotta tell you, since he became the starting quarterback, he's already been on Who Said It like 3 times. And I got a feeling as he keeps winning, we're gonna get more and more just some of those great Jameis quotes, man. I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty damn good. He's the funniest unintentional athlete I think I've ever seen. Like he's unintentionally funny. I don't think he's doing it on purpose all the time, but damn, he don't make me laugh all the time. I appreciate that. All right, thanks, Patrick, for everything you do. We appreciate all of your efforts and energy. We appreciate all you guys for joining us. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Happy Halloween out there. Go trick-or-treating, and if you are giving out the treats, give out a lot of treats, man. Don't be stingy with the candy. Thanks for everything you do. We love you guys. Peace, and hook 'em.